All right, everyone, cameras on, but stay on. Everybody turn your cameras on and everyone stay on. Everybody turn your cameras on, everyone stay on. Everybody turn your cameras on and everybody stay on mute. Cameras on, everybody. This is the calendar call, my 2 p.m. calendar. Cameras on and stay on mute. Cameras on and stay on mute. Ms. Chavez, raise your right hand. You swear affirm you'll translate from English to Spanish, Spanish to English to the best of your knowledge, skills, and ability.
I do, Your Honor.
Okay.
Por,
Yeah, go ahead and tell her.
por favor, enciendan las cámaras, pero mantengan el micrófono apagado.
All right. So you got to put on a couple more here to connect. Sorry for the 3-minute delay. I was speaking with a couple other judges. Turn your cameras on, Maxwell. Turn your cameras on. Turn your cameras on, except for my staff or say family staff. Turn your cameras on. Johnson, cameras on. Johnson's got to turn your camera on. I have to be able to see you. So if I'm telling you to turn your camera on, it's not showing a picture, Johnson. All right, I need everybody to, Mason Green, you need to get some light in front of you, your back lip. Can't see your face. There you go. All right, Hertel, Crystal, I need you to start your camera. Need you to turn your cameras on. Put yourself back on mute, start your camera. I placed you on mute. I got this last person that's allegedly signing up. All right, everybody. While this last person is connecting, I'm going to call the calendar. Take yourself off of mute. Go ahead, Michelle.
I'm here.
You want to tell
Vamos a llamar el calendario. Por favor, manténganse con el micrófono apagado.
Say here, so that I will know you are here.
Cuando escuchen su nombre, digan presente, para que yo sepa que están presentes.
Some cases will have to be reset due to no service.
Algunos de los casos se van a tener que posponer porque la otra persona no ha recibido el anuncio de la audiencia.
Before you leave, if I've reset your case, place your email in the chat.
Si es que el caso ha sido pospuesto, antes de que ustedes se desconecten de la llamada, en el chat pongan su email.
Tanya Pace, I need to see you. Tanya Pace. Tanya Pace. Sit down somewhere. Sit down somewhere and be still. Get somewhere where you can be still, not walking around. Everything I say is important. So I need you to pay attention to me and not wander around, okay? So when I call your name, take yourself off mute. This free will then send you a reset notice in a sheriff's form. Go ahead, Mr. Chavez. Tell them if the case is reset, I'll send them a reset notice in the sheriff's form.
Si el caso ha sido pospuesto, vamos a tener que mandar una nueva orden para el sheriff.
And they'll need to fill out the sheriff's form and return it before 5 p.m. today.
Y si se les envía este formulario del sheriff, ustedes tienen que completarlo y mandarlo de regreso antes de las 5 de la tarde hoy.
All right. I'll call the calendar. Obviously, you can repeat when I get to them. Houghton Peters, Willis.
Morning, Judge. Hallie Willis for the petitioner, Mr. Peters.
Morning, and Candace Peters, and I see Mr. Alexander.
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. Good afternoon, rather.
Yeah, no. Have the two of you had a chance to chat?
No, Judge.
We have
Yeah.
not, Your Honor.
Do you want to?
I think we would like to be heard on our motion to dismiss before perhaps we're then required to talk about anything.
Okay, I mean, that's fine if you don't think that talking will. Well, sometimes there's like
Correct, Your Honor. There's a pending divorce, so lawyers have been in communication. So it's not as if this is like a typical TPO where this would be the first opportunity to do so.
All right, and I see Ms. White. All right,
Good afternoon, Judge.
Hey, how are you? All right, Camden Smith.
Here.
Christopher Williams.
I'm here.
All right, Ms. Smith, are you still wanting to go forward?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now stand by, I'll get back to you. Tanisha Villanova. Sienna Johnson.
I'm here.
All right, Tanisha Villanova. All right, ma'am, she is not here, so this is going to be dismissed on her failure to appear. If you place your email in the chat, Ms. Johnson, we will send you a copy of the dismissal. Make sure that you keep it with you. You know, keep it with you, but definitely for a couple of weeks until it comes off GCIC, okay?
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. And you said I need to put my email in the chat?
In the chat, yep. Once you place your email in the chat, you can leave because we'll want to send you a copy of that order. Stay healthy and safe. Have a good weekend.
Okay, I'll place it in there now. Thank you.
Chief on Gavin. Patrick Gavin. Failure to appear. Mary Billen. Mary
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Eric Pierre. Don't show service on Mr. Pierre, ma'am. Your case is going to be reset.
May I ask, because the issue we had before, when our last meeting, and you said it was going to be reset and I did all the paperwork, the processing office said they never got the paperwork. So they weren't even aware that that anything had happened at the last court meeting. So I'm not sure how to avoid having that happen again.
Well, I think you can send it again because we carry the packets all together. That's all I'm saying. Carry all the reset packets over at one time. So
Yeah, they never got mine. And I filled out the forms that you guys asked for within an hour after the last meeting.
So I know that my office takes them over there. So there's nothing I can do about the sheriff's office. So,
Okay.
you know, sometimes I personally walk them over there. If they're in that stack, it was over there. If you just fill it out and send it back to Ms. Reed, we will reset this till the 17th and send you a copy, okay?
Okay, so right now you want me to just put my email in?
Yes, ma'am. And then send
Okay,
that
thank you.
form back before the end of the day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Chavez. Janet
Yes.
Paredes.
Janice Paredes,
Uh-huh.
Right. Gerardo Herrera.
Gerardo Herrera.
So this is about to expire.
Esto está para vencerse.
The sheriff's department went down. They can't access the place.
Dicen de que los sheriffs no pueden tener acceso al lugar.
So it's dismissed and she could feel free to reapply if she'd like.
Este caso va a ser desestimado si usted considera que todavía lo necesita y tiene que volverlo a solicitar.
If this is intimate partner, she can come Mondays, Wednesdays, or Fridays and get a referral to Safe Families and they can help her. Ms. Pace, please be still. Go ahead, Ms. Chavez.
Si esto es lunes, si esto es una pareja íntima, usted puede venir lunes, miércoles y viernes y puede ser referida a la oficina de Safe Families, a familias seguras.
So tell her to have stay healthy and safe, have a good weekend, and please feel free to reapply.
Y si usted necesita la ayuda de familias seguras, entonces venga a solicitarlo otra vez.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Tanya Pace, I've got to see your face. I do not want to look at the ceiling of wherever you're at. You're on mute, but you're gonna stay on mute, but I gotta see your face. I'm gonna have to see your face while you testify too. So you need to get somewhere where you can figure out how to use this without having to hold it up different. Let's see. Luzandre Escobar.
Here.
Luz Gil Escobar.
Sí, acá.
Renato Alvarez.
Reinaldo Álvarez.
Renato, yes.
Renato Álvarez.
So this one is expiring, so she'll need to reach back out to her advocate to reapply.
Señora, se está venciendo la solicitud, así que usted tiene que ir con la persona que le estaba ayudando para volver a hacer la solicitud.
According to the sheriff's department, I'm assuming this was a business because it said when they went by, they were closed.
Asumo que esto es un negocio donde tenían que entregarlo porque dice que cuando llegaron estaba cerrado.
Pero yo puse ahí las horas, puse business, las horas que eran hasta las 5, 5 o 6.
So just,
Pero
I
no,
gave the hours, the business hours that would be open up to 5 or 6 p.m.
okay, so I don't work for the sheriff's department again. Did not
Yo
get served. So tell her to reach back out to her advocate to reapply.
Señora, yo no trabajo para el Sheriff Department, yo no soy la que hago la entrega de documentos. Tiene que volver a solicitar, así que hable con la persona que le ayudó anteriormente.
bueno, yo fui a la corte directamente, tengo que ir a la corte directamente otra vez a hacer la petición y todo.
So I did it myself. I came directly to court, so I have to come back and do it again.
She went through Safe Families. Tell her to reach out to her advocate and Safe Families.
Señora, usted lo hizo a través de la oficina de Safe Family. Usted tiene que hablar con la persona de esa oficina.
Ok, entiendo. Dale,
I
muchas
understand.
gracias.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Buen día.
Stay healthy.
Have a
and
good
safe.
day.
Let's see, Rhonda Love, Rita Walker.
Here.
Rita Walker. Looks like the sheriff's department went by there 3 times and weren't able to serve the respondent. Yours has expired, so please feel free to reapply.
I need to do what?
You have to reapply. This is expired, so it's no longer.
Oh, I have to come down there and do another application.
You sure do, yes, ma'am. Stay healthy and safe. Have a good weekend. Mason Green.
Here.
Dura. Quisha Dura. All right, Sheriff's Department went by there 3 times, sir, and were unable to serve. So this is about to expire. So you're gonna need to reapply.
Okay.
I would say, I don't know if this was an intimate partner, but Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you can get a referral and go to Safe Families and they can help you to fill out your paperwork.
Okay.
All right. Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend. Thank you.
You too.
Alexandra Barrett.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Tristan Teal. Also, no service on Tristan Teal, ma'am. It's about to expire. Feel free to reapply. This was a dating box, so you can come and get a referral to go to Safe Families and they can help you.
I'm sorry, you're saying they didn't serve him?
No, he didn't get service. It's about to, and it's expiring.
I got an email saying confirmation of service. Didn't?
I mean, from who?
From the sheriff's department. I don't know. I just got an email like a week ago that said confirmation of service.
You can check again. Stand by. Crystal Hurtall. Hold on, ma'am. Let me finish calling the counter. I said we'll come back. Crystal Hurtall.
I'm here.
Tommy Rutledge. There's no service on him, ma'am, and yours is about to expire. Also, yours is.
I have the same thing as the last person. I did get an email from the sheriff's department saying that he was served.
It's free. Check that. Is there anything you filed?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a sheriff's service, but it's that it was a nonette service. So they found that it wasn't service.
It says they're not able to establish service. So no, neither one of them were served. The paperwork says non-established service. So when they send it back, they fill out a form saying they're not able to serve. So obviously it's confusing. Maybe you should talk to the sheriff's office if they're sending you something saying that there's service. So both of you, they're dating petitions. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, Safe Families is here and they can help you with your paperwork, which may be easier. for the both of you, but they've expired and there's nothing that I can do. Okay? Both of you stay healthy and safe and have a good weekend. Is there anyone here that's a party that I did not call your name? I will not call witnesses' names. I only call parties. Ms. Pace, are you a party to something? You got to take yourself off mute, ma'am. I can't hear you. Ms. Chavez, I think that's all we need. Thank you, Ms. Chavez.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Pace. Ms. Pace, you have to take yourself off mute. I can't hear you. Are you a party?
Hello.
Okay, are you a party?
Yes, I'm the plaintiff. He's incarcerated.
If that's your
In
thing,
Clayton
it's not on the calendar.
Well, he's in Clayton County.
But the case isn't on the calendar.
And Your Honor, it was set for 12:30.
Yes, it is. It says for the 10th at 12:30.
It was set for 12:30. It's 2:18, ma'am.
Well, ma'am, nobody never even picked up this thing. I don't even know how to work this thing. I explained that to that lady. And I've been on here for an hour and 30
No,
minutes.
ma'am. No, ma'am. You have not, because I have the waiting room.
Man, why would I lie? I'm just
Well,
trying
ma'am,
to
why
make
are you
sure.
telling me that I'm lying? Because I sit there and did hearings. So the 12:30 calendar, I called and heard the case different 12:30 calendar. So if you need to reapply, you can reapply.
Damn. She tripping.
All right, anyone that's a party that I did not call your name? Nope. All right, then we got Madam. Good to see you again, Miss Lee. I haven't seen you in a while.
Always good to see Judge Manning on a Friday afternoon.
Right. Lucky you, lucky you. All right, so we have the Peters case. Ms. Willis, how many witnesses do you have?
Just my client, Your Honor.
All right, and what about you, Mr. Alexander?
The same for me, just my client, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. White, are you gonna testify or are you just here to observe and see what you can get for the other case?
I'm here to observe, Judge. I was actually entered into both cases, the TPO and the divorce.
Yes, I do. That sounds like me, something I do. Yep, okay. All right, Mr. Smith, I'm sorry, Ms. Smith, how long do you expect your side to take?
Just a few minutes, not long.
All right. Do you have any witnesses besides yourself?
Just my father.
Where's your father?
He's right here.
Does he know something firsthand?
Yes, ma'am.
Firsthand, he witnessed it firsthand, not you telling him, he witnessed it firsthand?
Yes.
Okay, he can't be in the room with you when you testify, okay? What about
Yes.
you, Mr. Williams?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it just you?
No, ma'am. My mother's right here.
Okay, is she on the link?
I'm
Yes.
right here. I'm right here. Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'll place you in the waiting room too. And does your mom have firsthand knowledge, has witnessed things, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
She has firsthand knowledge, not what you told her. She has physically witnessed things.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, so Ms. Magruder, since he says you've seen things, I will place you in the waiting room. Because if he said you hadn't, I would let you stay here and watch if you thought. All right, do both counsel mind if I take this pro se case, which shouldn't take long first? All right,
Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Smith, Mr. Williams, raise your right hands. Y'all swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, you need to send your witness, can't be in the room with you, okay? All right, Ms. Smith, what I'd like to do is I'd like you to start from the most recent event and work backwards and tell me specifically what Mr. Williams did to you, not anybody else. What he did to you, not what he did to your mother, brother, sister, cousin, all that. They would have to be here to testify that. But what he did to you, okay? And then, Mr. Williams, I'll let you respond. Please don't interrupt her. If you interrupt her, I'm going to mute you, okay?
Yes,
And
yes,
I'm
ma'am.
gonna- and she won't interrupt you. Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
Recently, on January 2nd, he came to pick up our daughter, and my father wanted to speak to him inside the house, and he kind of like, kind of got aggressive towards him. It was just a whole thing with him and his mom, and we were trying to talk to him about how he's been disrespecting me and just calling me out of my name, and he didn't want to talk, so it got into this big thing, and he basically pushed my father down. He tried to charge towards me and my mom, and that was the most recently, but it's just been like an ongoing thing. He's been disrespecting me. I have voice recordings and text messages to prove. Yeah, he's just been verbally abusing me and threatening me, and it's just been a lot.
All right, so if you have, because you're kind of telling me in general, but I need to know some specifics. So if you have recordings or call where, like he says, he's gonna, come beat you up.
Yes, ma'am. I have 2 voice recordings I would like to play.
Okay, just tell me, it's between just you and him, right?
Yes.
Okay, or he called you, not anybody else voicemail. So tell me the date of it and then play it so that we can hear.
Yes, ma'am. 1 second.
Williams, I hope you're listening, not, okay.
This one is December 14th.
Okay, go ahead.
I said what I said, bro. Just stop trying me. Stop playing with me. I would have never got this piped up or mad if you would have strapped Randy in, or you would have said, Christopher, strap her in. Nigga, you came to my car and you didn't say nothing, bro. You set Randy right there, shut the door and left. And I'm in the car with your mom. You gotta stop playing with me. I'm on it. I'm gonna tell you right now. Yeah, that's for my dead Uncle Greg.
You know, Ms. Smith, hold on a second. I don't know if you were moving the phone, but it was kind of going in and out.
Yes, this is a recording from my phone.
Okay, I mean, but you could hear the whole voicemail, right? Because it was kind of going in and out. I don't know if that was.
Yes, Your Honor, it's a whole voicemail.
Okay, so if you're, because it went in and out, so I don't know if you moved the phone or if it was, that's how it was on the voicemail. Try playing it again.
I said what I said, bro. Just stop trying me. Stop playing with me. I would have never got this piped up or mad if you would have strapped Randy in, or you would have said, Christopher, strap her in. Nigga, you came to my car and you didn't say nothing, bro. You set Randy right there, shut the door and left, and hopped in the car with your mom. Stop playing with me. Both of y'all stop playing with me, and I'm on that. And I'm telling y'all both of y'all right now, and I hope you hear this message. Stop fucking playing with me. I'm gonna slap the shit out of both of y'all. That's on my dead Uncle Grave, bro. Stop playing with me like I'm a bitch. Y'all been trying me lately, and I've been letting that shit slide. But stop fucking playing with me, gang. Stop that shit for real, bro. I'm letting you know that now. Stop fucking playing with me, bro. You think I'm a bitch if you want to? I will pipe up on both of y'all. And you want to get a nigga, I'm gonna beat his ass too. And y'all get it. Stop fucking playing with me, bro. You did not strap right in. You ain't think nothing about no strap in or about no fucking appointment. You put my daughter in the car, you fucking left. Stop playing with me, man.
That was one time.
What's the date on the next one?
Yes, this one is from November
You
22nd.
realize, so you doing all this popping and doing all this, I'm a deadbeat. But if you ain't, nigga, you ain't shit without me. If you were to move, nigga, you could not raise Randy by yourself on your own, nigga, at all, bro. You a fool, bro. You not even built like that. You can't even get on raise Randy and do your homework at the same time. Fuck you think you mean? You think you raise Randy by yourself? Like, man, get the fuck out of here. So why I'm a deadbeat and you want me to call you a great mom? Man, fuck out. You ain't no great mom. You a goddamn bullshit ass mama and you a slut. You ain't check.
Okay.
That was the second voice recording, and the rest are text messages.
Okay, do you want to share your screen to show me a text message? Just tell me,
Yes.
The date they were sent.
There's 4 attachments. This is the first one.
Okay, Mr. Williams, can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. let's see, what's the date on this?
I accidentally cut off the date on this one.
But do you know when it was? I mean,
Everything has been happening from November to now, the end of November to now.
were these the two voicemails?
Those are other voicemails. No, ma'am, those aren't the ones I just played.
So you're the blue, he's the.
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead. Okay. 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 Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Williams.
Can you hear me?
Whoever you were texting, if that's who you were texting, she can't testify. If you were just texting your mother, she can't text, because you were texting somebody.
No, I want to text my mother.
You weren't paying attention, but hopefully, go ahead, you can respond.
First off, the recording she played, the only reason why I sent that recording is because when I came to pick up my daughter, she came out, she threw the bags in my car, she sat my daughter down, slammed my door, and walked away and got in the car and drove off with her brother. So out of anger, I sent that message. Second,
you said, you know, N-word, F, and we slapped the shit out of both of you.
yes, ma'am. That's the only reason I say I wasn't raised like that. I just said it out of anger because I was mad at the time. I'm not
Yeah, but all those texts, are they out of anger too?
ma'am.
Those text messages in the second voicemail, they're out of anger too?
Me and Miss Smith go back and forth with each other. We argue with each other. We say disrespectful things to each other. The only difference is she screenshots what I say and she shows her parent and she don't screenshot what she says to me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take accountability and responsibility for the words I said and my actions that I put on in this text message that I said to her and her mom. And I also want to apologize for what I said because I wasn't raised like that. And I would never let nobody pull me out of character to keep me away from my daughter. All this is bogus, Your Honor. I see my daughter 5 days out the week. I get her every day out the week. I drive 38 minutes to get my daughter. They even said out their mouth that I'm a good parent. This is the only incident that ever happened. And I haven't seen my daughter since the 25th because of this incident. The only reason why I came to her house January 2nd is because I haven't seen my daughter in 5 days because I had knee surgery. So I was going to get my daughter with her permission. I told her I was outside. I never knew her dad was there. I never knew her dad was coming to talk to me. None of that. I just came to get my daughter with my mother and leave. When I got there, her dad came outside, approached the car, banged on the window on the right side. Then he came to my side, started putting his hands in my face. Then that's when I got the car. He kept having his hands in my face. I asked him nicely to back up, please. I'm not here for that. I came to get my daughter to leave. He never backed up, not once. Then he spit on me. That's when I pushed him out my face because he spit on me. After he pushed me out my face, it got into an altercation. All three of them, Miss Smith, her dad, and her mom was outside trying to fight me while they left my baby inside the house by herself. That's the only reason why I even got even more mad because I was telling them to go get my child. They told me no. When they told me no to get off their property, I left. Never came back once, never texted her again. I haven't seen my daughter since the 25th. It's the longest I ever in my life been away from my daughter since she been born. I never been away from her for 2 months and a half. They have let me see her in 2 months. I should get her every day. I drive 38 minutes to get her every day or every other day. I asked them nicely, repeatedly, can they come meet me? They tell me no. The only reason I can see my daughter is if I come get her. That's the only way I can see her. They won't meet me. They won't. and won't drive to bring her to me. I have to drive myself. I even drove on a broke wrist, on a broke knee to get my daughter. So all this right here is bogus. I even drove Miss Smith to work with my daughter. When we go to doctor's appointment, she be with me. I never put my hands on her. I never put my hands on my child. Never, not once. That's not even me. That's not how I was raised. The only thing is I let them get me out my character, and I let them put me in a place where I messed up and I said some stupid things, but I do take accountability and responsibility for my actions and the words I said.
So when you get mad, you say you go put some holes in people?
Say it again.
You get mad, threaten to hurt people? When you're mad?
Huh?
You get
I'm
mad
sorry.
to hurt people?
You said when I get mad, do I hurt people?
You threaten?
No, ma'am, I don't hurt. No, ma'am, I don't hurt nobody. That's not me. I'm not raised to hurt people. I never hurt.
Threaten to hurt people.
Say it again.
Threaten to hurt people. That's your response when you're angry. You start threatening to hurt people.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am, I don't. Like I said, me and Miss Smith have words. Me and Miss Smith go back and forth, and we have words to each other. She didn't say words to me too. The only difference is I just don't screenshot it and show people.
Right. How old is
she put my hands on me before I put my hands on her. And what I do, I walked out the house and never came back.
Y'all shouldn't be hitting one another, but there's no counterclaim against her. How old is this child?
My baby's
She's 11 months.
11 months. Congratulations to both of them. But the voicemail you're leaving for her as a mother, these text messages, if both of y'all are texting each other like that, sit back and think, would you, I mean, I'm saying this, and you know, the days of social media, this kid one day is going to find this and see this and hear this and be like, wow. But, you know, would you want somebody to do that to your mama? Talk to your mother that way, Mr. Williams?
She had talked about mother that way.
Would you allow somebody and want someone to talk to your mother?
No, ma'am, I would not.
Okay, so why are you talking to Miss Smith like that? Because she's somebody's mother. She's your child's mother.
Yes, I understand it. I that's why I took accountability for the words I said. But it's not like I text her out of nowhere and I just dog her out. I harass her. No, we say words to each other, and we say
it's not good for
respectful
either
things to
one
each
of
other.
y'all. And this poor child. Mr. Williams, have you filed to legitimate this child?
Yes, ma'am. I have, but they told me I have to get this out the way first before I can proceed with the process.
Who told you that?
The deputy that served me. They told me I had to go to court and get this.
You took legal advice from a deputy.
No, I'm already in the process of getting legitimized, but the deputy told me the only way I could keep going is if I had to get this dismissed.
So you did take legal advice from a deputy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. I wouldn't have taken legal advice from me when I was caught. See how fast you were going. Sure as heck, you know, don't take legal advice. That's what lawyers are for. Man, what is your mother going to say specifically? Or yeah, what is your mother going to say, Miss Smith? Miss Smith?
It's my father.
Your father, I'm sorry.
It's my father. Yes, my father. But he was just basically, he was just gonna basically reiterate the incident on January 2nd.
So what happened that day? Okay, you want to call him in the room?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Dad. I'm assuming your last name's Smith, but if it's not, what's your last name?
It's Shaq, Your Honor.
Okay, there you go. All right, sir. If you don't mind, raise your right hand for me. You swear affirm.
Yes, ma'am.
Swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just tell me what you've heard, what you've witnessed firsthand. And I think it's the January date. What exactly did you witness on that?
Your Honor, Christopher and his mother pulled up in the car, and when I was walking toward the passenger side because I thought he was on the passenger side. I knew he had just had leg surgery. I just wanted to talk to him about the verbal threats he had been given to not only my daughter, but to my wife, saying he was gonna slap the shit out of my wife and daughter. I had talked to Christopher about this before, back in October and November, about stop sending threatening emails. That's not good because people can have evidence to show that you are threatening them. He said, okay. But I went away to my parents, my mom's house in DC from December 3rd to the 30th. And when I got back, he came to my house on January the 2nd with his mom. And I asked his mom, where's your son? She said, well, he's in the car. I was like, where? That's why I went to the passenger side first. There was no knocking on the window. And I went around the side. I even told him, come on, son, just sit down. Let me talk to you. Because he continued to just keep threatening my family. I didn't know what to do. And then it got out of hand. Now he said, I spit in his face. I didn't spit in his face. Matter of fact, Christopher stood up. I said, I'm not going to hit you, young man. You just had leg surgery. And that's when he pushed me on the ground. I got back up. My wife grabbed me. My wife called my neighbor over. And I told him, no way, you're not going to be threatening my family and think you're just going to pull up and get my granddaughter. Now my head is on a swivel because he kept telling my wife and me, we're both going to get it. And that's on video too. And then my daughter came over and he tried to punch her while he was sitting in the car. The man just had leg surgery.
Do you have that video?
Yes, ma'am, I do. It's on my cell phone.
All right. So if you give it to your daughter, or maybe she can share her screen if you want me to see it.
I'll do that. Hold on.
Ms. Smith, I don't know if you can get it to where you can share the screen with it.
Let me try once.
Okay. You got it, Ms. Smith? Were you, oh, you trying to open it so you can play it?
The video is downloading.
Okay.
I think the file might be too large to play on the computer. Is there any way that I can play it through the phone screen?
All right, you can try it. I can see if I can hear it and see it. So we can try it. I gotta see the video. There you go.
Sorry, y'all.
It's okay. Okay. Okay, so who was that in the gray sweatpants or gray?
That was,
I have them blue.
no, that was my mom with a gray t-shirt on.
Okay, so who was the guy?
The guy was my dad, and Mr. Williams was in here. Mr. Williams was inside the car. So you couldn't really see him, but you can see where he pushed him down on the ground and.
All right. Okay. Any questions, Mr. Williams?
Yes, Miss. I have a question. They say I put my hands. I swung on Miss Smith. I never swung on her ever.
Okay, that's not
And
good.
where's the video of her of me swinging on her?
She didn't have a video. She just has testimony.
And I have a testimony too.
Okay, I understand you do, but you saw this video, so what's your response to that?
My response to this is they tried to do the same thing what they saying now to Douglasville, and it got dismissed because they said I wasn't the aggressor and it was self-defense. He tried to do the same thing Monday and it got dismissed. So now they trying to put up the same, I guess, video of me putting my hands on Miss Smith.
You talk about Monday and it got dismissed.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't know what you're talking about.
With her dad.
Tried to do what? And it got, who dismissed what?
They tried to do the same thing they doing now in Douglasville before they came to 14 and it got dismissed. He tried to do the same thing Monday and it got dismissed.
You don't live in Douglas County. That's why it got dismissed.
No, it got dismissed because they tried to send snippets of what they did right now. And then they sent it back to him and told them that they cannot file charges against me because if I was in self-defense and I wasn't the aggressor, Mr. Shacks was.
I don't know about that. I just know if you try to get a TPO, you can't do it because you live in Douglas County.
Can I say something?
That's what I'm saying. But anyway, let's move beyond it.
All right.
May I say something, please?
Hold on a second. Okay, so let's see. Let me let your mom in real quick. Let me hear from her. Was she there, Mr. Williams?
Yes, ma'am, because she drove me because I couldn't drive. I can't, since my surgery, I can't drive.
Who you talking to, Mr. Williams?
Huh?
Who are you talking to?
Talking to nobody. I'm talking to you.
You're talking to somebody who's in the room with you because you're talking to them.
No, not talking to nobody.
Hey, Mr. Maxwell, I was born at night, not last night. You're talking to somebody that's in the room with you, but as long as it's not your mama, that's fine. Stop talking to her.
Mama.
No. Ms. Magruder, if you raise your right hand, you swear for testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Magruder, tell me what you know firsthand about this. I guess you were at this incident in January, so tell me what you know.
Your Honor, first of all, Camden Smith and my son, this whole situation is two young, immature adults that don't know how to talk to each other and need to learn how to just talk to each other to raise a child. I personally try to stay out of it because my son is 23 years old. He's not 14, he's not 13, he's a grown man. I've raised him. Not saying that he does everything perfect, but I have done my part. So I don't get involved in his relationships or anything. And I've even had this conversation with Camden as well. My only concern is my grandchild. That's it. On January the 2nd, we had just had my granddaughter on December the 26th. I came over there by myself because we always came to their house ever since my grandbaby is born because they would never meet us. So in order for us to see my grandbaby, we will always have to go over there, which was not a problem for us. On the 26th of December is when I went to go get my grandbaby for her to stay with us for the weekend. I personally had a personal conversation with Cam. And I told Cam, do I like everything that Christopher does? No, I do not. Do I like everything you do? No, I do not. At the end of the day, you all have a child and you all have to learn how to talk to each other. It has nothing to do with your parents or mine because both of you all are grown. You are not teenagers. I had this conversation, told her whatever she decides to do with Chris, that will never have anything to do with me. I love her. I'm always going to be in her life because she is my grandbaby's mother. Just had this on the 26th. On January the 2nd, Christopher, because he had just had surgery, he could not drive. I had my 17-year-old in the passenger seat with me. I told Christopher to text Cam to let her know that we were going to come and get Rainy. So she would know. We never go to their house unannounced. We always let them know and get permission before we come over there. Camden said that it was okay. Once we got to the house, we pulled in the driveway. I told my son, text Cam and tell her we're outside. She can bring Rainy out. Your Honor, next thing I know, we are sitting in the car. The garage door goes up and Mr. Shax comes out very aggressively because the first thing I said is, what's the problem? Because I never know what's going on because I'm not involved. My son Christopher said, oh Lord, here he come. And I said, wait a minute, what's the problem? Mr. Shax comes to my passenger door and he knocked on the window because I guess he assumed that my son, my oldest son, was in the passenger seat. It was not him. At this time, I got out of the car and I said, hey, how you doing? I said, what's the problem? He said, no, it ain't a problem. I need to speak to your son. I said, no, you need to tell me what the problem is first. He's walking back around the car to on the driver's side where I was because my son was sitting behind me. I said, you need to let me know what's going on. He said, you can't roll down the window. I said, can you tell me what's going on? I asked him that several times. I didn't know nothing else what was going on. So I'm thinking in my mind, Mr. Shax is almost 60 years old. So I know we're not going to cut up in this yard in front of folks, and we're supposed to be the adults over the young adults. This is what I'm thinking in my head. So I opened up the door, Your Honor. When I opened up the door, my son brought his leg out of the back out of the car to sit up to listen to what Mr. Shax said. When he was doing that, Mr. Shax said, no, you good, young fella. I know you just had surgery on your leg. So in my mind, I'm still thinking everything is okay because he said that. The next thing I know, he got in my son's face, pointed in his face like this, and he said, if you ever fucking threaten my daughter and my wife again, and that's when I said, whoa, what's going on? My son then tried to stand up because he had a full brace on. He only had one leg. He stood up and leaned against the back of the car. Miss Shax, which is his husband, was at the end of the garage. Miss Smith, which is my granddaughter's mother, she was in the house with the baby. She wasn't even outside. It was just me, Mr. Shax, and his wife. By the time that they got into it, I got in there and I said, hold on, wait a minute, what's going on? Miss Shax started coming up. Christopher, which is my son, I heard him ask him, you need to get out my face. He asked him that several times. Mr. Shax got closer. Next thing I know, I saw spit come out his mouth and my son pushed him on the ground. I grabbed my son and I put him in the car. I was trying to put him in the car because I said, we are not finna do this. By this time, Mr. Shax, of course, he's angry. He got pushed on the ground. So he's very angry. I understand that. His wife is trying to hold him back. He's steady talking. At this time, both of them talking to each other. And I'm telling my son, shut up, get in the car. Mr. Shack breaks loose from his wife because my 17-year-old came around the other side. He breaks loose from his wife to try to come at the car, and my 17-year-old got in front of him. He pushed my 17-year-old into the back of the car. His wife grabbed him and said, no, you can't do that. After all this happened, he called the neighbor tried to get him because he's hysterical now because he's mad. Now all of this going on, I'm trying to get off the property. His wife asked me to get the fuck off her property. That's what she told me. And I got in my car once I got him and I drove off. Something told me, Your Honor, to call the police station because I knew they were going to call the police after we left. There was no police called before we was there, but when we got there. I called Douglas County. That's when I knew that they had filed. They sent snippets of their door cam to say that we came over there and we aggressively disrespected them and we pushed Mr. Shack down. After a couple of days, Deputy Bradley called me. I have the report. I think we had put the report or we attached it when we first had to answer to this. She called me and she said in the beginning, she thought that my son was the aggressor because she did not hear my testimony and she did not see the video cam that they sent. She said, in viewing the video cam that they sent, they can tell that Mr. Shacks was the aggressor and my son did it in self-defense, that there were no charges being filed. Next thing I know, we got.
If they saw the video I saw, I don't know what they could tell whether some were charged or not. But anyway,
I don't know. That's what she said. And then next thing I know, we got a subpoena to come to court for Fulton County because Mr. Shacks was put in a protection order on Chris for him. We were just in court Monday.
Okay, hold on a second. Have you listened to the voice message between him to your to your son that he's listening?
I have, and I am very embarrassed. That's one thing about me, Your Honor. And I've even had a conversation. I've never even talked to Mr. Shacks by high and by. But as far as Camden and her mother, they have called me before about my son's, his words and stuff. And I have even gotten on Chris about that to tell him, where did you get that from? How can you disrespect anybody? She's the mother of your child. I've never condoned him of none of this. And Miss Smith know this and Miss Shacks know this. Mr. Shacks, I don't know. Again, every time we came over there, he was either cutting grass, it was high and by. I never had an encounter with him until January the 2nd. But I am very embarrassed about that. And all of that Miss Smith is talking about is stuff that they've already talked about. We have not been over there since December the 26th. He's already apologized because they both talk to each other like that, Your Honor. They both do. But Chris knows better. He is wrong. He's dead wrong. But they got to find a way to talk to each other. And I'm not being biased because it's just my son. I've always looked at both of them. Her parents only look at what Christopher does. Cam don't do nothing. And Cam is the only one that physically has put her hands on Chris because she slapped him in the face with his baby in the hand because she didn't like what he said. And I had to go over there and talk to her again with her mom. And her mom even said, I told Cam she can't be putting her hands on people because what if Krista was a different person and would have hit her and it would have been a whole nother story. Now we here. If Mr. Shacks and them wanted to talk, Your Honor, we could have set this up. I just don't get it. And it's too much we haven't seen our grandbaby because of this.
Hold on, Ms. Kim. All right, let me ask a question.
May I say something, please?
Huh?
May I say something?
Okay.
We have tried several times to talk all together. His grandma texted my mother about setting up a meeting to talk about, well, this has been going on for a while. So his grandmother texted my mother about setting up a meeting so that we can all talk. And somehow he claimed that he canceled it, that we would try to figure it out by ourselves. But yet it still continued to happen. He kept continuing to disrespect me and we never had the meeting. So once he started threatening me on the voice recordings and I told my father he was out of town. So by the time he came back from out of town, that's January 2nd when they came to the house. So he wanted to talk to him like we were supposed to have this meeting, but we never had the meeting. So he wanted to talk to him once again. And then this is when everything happened because he didn't want to talk.
All right, I got you. Mr. Mr. Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
before we brought your mom in here, you remember that question I asked you?
No, ma'am. Can you repeat it?
Did those text messages and those voicemails, would you speak to your mother like that?
No, ma'am. I said no, ma'am.
Okay. So then I said, well, why are you speaking to Ms. Smith like that? She's also somebody's mother.
Exactly. I said I was wrong, but we
And
both
now
do
you
it.
said you were wrong, but neither one of you should be sending, y'all have a child. How many times do I say? Y'all pick one another to have a kid with. Whether y'all regret being together or not, there's a child here. So y'all are stuck with one another for the rest of your lives, to the point that it has to deal with a kid. And, you know, and I say this, young folks today, just skyrocket to violence and stuff like that. It's like, wow. I just don't understand. And it's sad that the parents try to get involved to meet. Y'all are grown. Y'all have had a child. So that's y'all. Y'all shouldn't need mom and daddy to intervene and help y'all, tell y'all how to get along. You really shouldn't. But we got this 11-month-old child. Mr. Williams, you said you have not filed to legitimate yet, because you took law advice from a sheriff.
Yes, ma'am.
So right now, I can't make Miss Smith let you see this child. Because you have no rights. Me and you have the same amount of rights for this child. Zero. And
Now,
then,
Mr. Williams.
no, hold on. So that's how that goes. None. And I want, like I said, I want all dads to try to go ahead, legitimate their children, get an order from a judge, get a parenting plan. So when you're getting along, everything's great. The minute something goes south, one of y'all want to say, you can't see this kid. Not today, not today. And they go, oh, we got this verbal agreement, blah, blah, blah. That ain't anything. Unfortunately, there has to be something in writing saying when y'all both have time with children. Just maybe stuff happened back when I was young like this, but I don't think, up in my 50s, I don't think stuff like this happened. I think people just, I know. I'd help my father if he'd have hit my mother. Ooh. He'd be the one that wasn't here. Leukemia took her, but trust me, he wouldn't have been around too much. But so in talking to one another like that, I never even heard my parents yell at each other. But I want them old people like your mom, she never even probably saw her parents kiss, because they just didn't do that stuff in front of their kids. I don't know why. But you know, so they kept everything. They were a parent in front of you. That was it. A parent. So that this fight happened, and I get dad's running out there because he's trying to protect his daughter, just like your mama wanted to protect you. And if somebody spit in somebody's face, that's wrong. You did have grown people acting very immature. So Ms. Smith, tell me this. What is it you want me to put? You're asking me to put this place for 12 months so that he doesn't come around you and he doesn't see the kid and all that. That's what you're asking me to do?
No, ma'am. It's not my intentions to keep. I'm sorry. It's not.
Wait a minute. Did something I say hit a chord? Oh my God.
It's not my intention to keep Rainey from him at all. Like, I know he loves her and I know she misses him, but it's like, I just want to stop being disrespected. I just want to stop being threatened. Like, I've been going through a lot. I'm in school and I work. So it's been a lot on me just this month where he hasn't seen her. So I I need help too. He's her father. So
you made that clear voicemail. You ain't shit. You can't do shit.
Right. But it's like, I understand he just says that stuff out of anger, but it's like, I just want it to stop. But I do want him to be able to see his daughter, but I would like to set up, like, I think it's called, what you said, a parenting plan, so that he can see her on certain days. I don't want to keep her from him at all. That's not my intentions. I
want the disrespect to stop for me too. Like, I want to stop being disrespectful.
Mr. Williams, she's talking to me. What did you just say?
I said I want to
I
stop
saw, no,
being
no,
disrespectful.
Mr. Williams, I just saw you, I'm muting you. I just saw you when you leaned back and go. I just saw you do that. So I'm seeing right now how you're getting angry like that. But you just seriously, I can read lips. I don't have such a good view of your face when you said, no, not. What I'm trying to do is take care of this kid. And Miss Smith, you always need grandma and grandpa. Because they're gonna, first of all, they're gonna get in there and teach y'all that y'all don't know anything about parenting. They do, because they've raised kids and you haven't. But they're gonna be there to help you guys with everything you need. And this child is gonna be, it's that whole village is gonna raise this child. So, Ms. Smith, are you asking for a protective order to be in place for you, for him, for a couple months? Or what is it that you tell me what you.
Yes, ma'am. I would like a couple of months, but I also would like him to be able to see his child as well. But I can meet his mom or his grandmother to pick her up somewhere. If we can have a safe place to set up and specific times and days, but I would like him to stay away from me. Yes, ma'am.
You need some time.
Yes, just I don't need the full 12 months, but I just.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Williams. What schedule do you work, and what do you do for a living? Take yourself off mute. No more F-bombs. Where do you work, sir?
I mean, I can't work right now because I just had surgery on my knee. So only thing I can do right now is go to physical therapy. And
So after this, where do you work? When you can go, what did you do for a living, or where did you work?
I worked at DHL before my my car accident.
Okay, all right. Okay, so here's what I will do. How about this? We can do a couple things. One, TPO is going to mess with your employment. I can extend the ex parte for 60 days so that it'll still be in place. And that way, and if we can put in there that it's in place, and that you'll talk with Ms. Magruder and y'all can work out a plan of, certain days or times, stuff like that. How about that? And I'll put in there that he gets to see the child, y'all are going to agree on parenting time. So I don't know, something y'all want to put in writing, but obviously you and Ms. Magruder can get along. And so y'all can talk and meet somewhere else. And Ms. Williams, stay away. Get in there, legitimate your kids. Stop taking legal advice from sheriffs. Love them, but they don't know anything about the civil process and how some of the laws work. So
Can I say something?
hold on, Ms. Free. We have a like 6 days out, like just a compliance. You can put on the compliance date if you want, Ms. Free.
60 days out.
Yes. Will be April.
The compliance date for April is April 4th at 10 a.m.
It really won't be 60 days.
The next compliance will be the May 2nd.
Okay, May 2nd. Now, Mr. Williams, that will give you time to file your case to legitimate this child and get parenting plans set down. And also there they talk about child support and things like that. But this way it's not affecting you because there's no final order. Okay, so it's not going to affect you getting a job again. But y'all got to pull it together. Y'all got to pull it together because this is not going to be how this child grows up with grandma or grandpa, doing the pickup and drop off. That's not. It's y'all's child that y'all have to raise. It's for grandma and grandpa to have fun with and then give them back to you. I mean, I'm sure grandma wants to help, but hopefully y'all can do what's best for this kid, okay? What would you like to say, Mr. Williams?
I just want to say I want to stop getting disrespected too. Like I don't want to make it seem like I'm only one disrespecting her or making her feel uncomfortable.
Need to grow up.
Like
I said both of y'all need to. Both of y'all.
I want to stop getting called a deadbeat when I've been seeing my daughter 5 days out the week.
Well,
and I still get called
and I would also like for you to quit calling her a slut. So there you go.
I want to apologize too on my behalf because yes, I have put my hands on him before.
That's all. That is growth right there. Y'all have made the right steps. Mr. Williams, you're getting mad. You apologize, take responsibility, she's apologized. So lower that temper and listen to your mama. Your mama knows what she's talking about. All right, if both of y'all will put your emails in the chat, I will send y'all copies. It'll be basically a reset notice, and we'll just add a line in there that Ms. Smith will talk with Ms. Magruder and arrange, so that Dad can see the child. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Magruder.
I'm sorry, I just want to know, so being that you are extending this, for 60 days for her, that he can be around her, I'm able to communicate with her, because I'm just trying to find out when I can see her and get her.
Yeah, I just said Ms. Smith needs to communicate with you so y'all can
Okay.
a schedule,
Okay.
every other weekend, but a set schedule. Maybe Ms. Smith can type out dates and y'all can exchange an email. So, yes, ma'am, y'all can talk about the child.
Camden, are you willing to talk to me? I'm just trying to, Okay, I just want to make sure. I'm just trying to be the peacemaker.
Well, hopefully with a little bit of this time and Mr. Williams, maybe you need to think about an anger management class. You get pretty upset and you mouth the F-bomb just because I said something. Maybe you need to think about an anger management class. Maybe parenting would help y'all. Once you file that legitimation case, they're going to make y'all take a parenting class anyway. I'd get a jump on it and take it. Thank you both. If y'all put your emails in the chat. Once you do that, we'll send you a copy of this reset notice and y'all can leave the meeting. Thank you, Ms. Magruder. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Y'all have stay healthy and safe. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You as well.
All right. So we got this other case here. All right, guys.
No problem, Your Honor.
Go ahead. Would the parties raise their right hand? Y'all swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Peters, you gotta say something.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Place your hands down. All right, so we've got the court reporter here, and she's done court reporting here so much. So, one, have both parties agreed to share and takedown?
Judge, we would like takedown. We're willing to share if Mr. Alexander is same.
Mr. Alexander?
Of course, Your Honor, yes.
Okay, so what I require, and I think Ms. Lee likes, is that they be paid within 5 days of receiving invoice.
Certainly,
If they're not paid within 5 days of receiving invoice, y'all get to come, whoever's not paid comes in here in person, and you purge from here, give her the money, or you purge from Rice Street. Y'all make sure y'all pay it. Make sure that y'all send your emails if she doesn't have it to Ms. Lee, and also email her exhibits if there are any exhibits that are, and she like for them to be marked and things like that. So you email her in exhibits and make sure she has y'all's email address so she can send y'all them. All right, we're gonna do openings.
Your Honor, we do have the pending motion to dismiss.
Okay, go ahead. With that.
Judge, I apologize for interrupting, but we would object to this motion being heard. I don't know if Your Honor recalls, but we had this hearing scheduled for January 11th already, and Your Honor was not inclined to dismiss this case then. I'm not sure that they get to have another shot at asking for a dismissal at this continuation hearing.
What's your response, Mr. Alexander?
Your Honor, I don't believe there was ever actually argument made on the motion itself. In fact, the order of continuance specifically points out that the continuance order was entered after pretrial conference, not after any argument being made to Your Honor or to the court. Certainly on the.
I think it was to give both y'all time to talk and let Ms. White do a little bit of work.
Judge, I don't know how productive our conversation will be, but I'm happy to speak with Mr. Alexander if Your Honor would like that.
Right, I mean, and that was from before. And first, let me go ahead and address this because there was, Mr. Alexander filed an objection to hearing Zoom cases. Well, if I have a live TPO calendar, I have 100 people in this courtroom. And there is absolutely, we're short on staff, so I'm allowed. And I've read the rules that they don't go into effect till March 1, and I've read it, but I'm actually allowed to do this. I can make that decision out of safety and health reasons, concerns. I make the decision not to bring 100 people into my courtroom. It's safe. That's just the best thing to do. I'm not going to get COVID. I haven't had it, knock on wood, and I don't want anybody else to get sick. Flu. I don't want them to get anything. And right now, can't do that. As you well know, we have over 600 jurors here at a time for the YSL gang trial, and we also have family members, victims and defendants, family members, and some of them are housed up here with a tight quarters over here. I think most people that even work here can't find parking. So this is for health standards. We're going to have it on Zoom. So I will let you quickly say something about a dismiss. And
Well, Your Honor, if I may very quickly just respond for the record with regards to the objection on the in-person hearing. There was an order entered by the Supreme Court of Georgia specifically addressing Rule 9 and Rule 9.1, 9.2 with regards to video conference hearings. That order that had been in place as a result of COVID prior was to expand Rule 9.2 to allow any hearing to be conducted via Zoom, not simply the matters that were listed in Uniform Superior Court Rule 9.2. However, the amended order, Your Honor, that was entered by the Supreme Court on April 12th, 2022, stated specifically, in addition, those rules as temporarily clarified and amended are hereby additionally clarified to allow any proceeding not otherwise allowed to be conducted by video conference so long as the judge and all the parties consent and public access is ensured as required in said rules.
And if you look at the Supreme Court order dated January 5th, 2023, look at line G, effective date. This rule shall be effective for any virtual visits taking place on or after March 1st. It's February 10th. So anyway, health and safety reason, I can make that judgment, appeal it. Appeal that I want to keep people safe in the courtroom as opposed to having 100 people in a courtroom.
I appreciate that, Your Honor. There's certainly obviously serious implications in a TPO hearing on the respondent, and simply that's why we're voicing this objection, and I understand our rights of appeal.
No, and also understand that you don't do that until you file this. Yesterday, that's not how you do something, because I've had parties say we want to have it in person as long as they tell me that you filed the objection yesterday. So I'm going to deny that, so we'll move on. Now go ahead with your motion to dismiss, because that was filed yesterday at 12:42.
The objection, correct, Your Honor. The motion to dismiss, as this counsel for petitioners pointed out, has been pending for some time now.
No, I mean, we'll hear that, but your objection, and it, obviously I didn't get a courtesy copy. I didn't do it until I opened that this morning and looked at it. But go ahead with your motion to dismiss. I'll hear it. Go ahead.
Certainly, Your Honor. With regards to the motion to dismiss, our claim is that it fails to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. The specific allegations contained within the petition, Your Honor, all stem from, all fall under the, if you look at 1931, it would be the stalking provision within 1931B. There's no allegations within paragraph 4 or 5 with regards to violence. The allegations are with regards to a hidden and wireless camera that was found on December 17th, 2022, as well as another camera alleged to be discovered 12/7/2022, and then 3 air tags alleged to be discovered on various dates. First, Your Honor, with regards to the 2 cameras, so that's in paragraph 4, specifically petitioner alleges that he, quote, discovered a hidden wireless camera and microphone buried inside of his office equipment that was located in the basement of petitioner and respondent's residence. All right, Your Honor, the statute governing stalking, Your Honor, 16590A, specifically directs that a person commits the offense of stalking when he or she follows, places under surveillance, or contacts another person at or about place or places without the consent of the other person. If you go down further into that statute, Your Honor, it specifically points out, for purposes of this article, the term place or places shall include any public or private property occupied by the victim other than the residence of the defendant. So these claims that there is a camera that was found in their joint residence is the residence of the respondent, and on its face cannot fall under the stalking statute pursuant to 16590. Your Honor, that is exactly the same issue we have with the claim in paragraph 5 on December 7th, 2022, when petitioner alleges to have, quote, discovered a camera hidden amongst cardboard boxes in the garage of the marital residence. So, Your Honor, those two certainly on their face do not fall under the purview of the stalking statute. There were cameras, alleged cameras set up within respondent's home. That is not stalking and cannot be stalking under the basic definition of 16590A. With regards to the other claims, Your Honor, and specifically the other claims have to do with an AirTag device. It appears that there was one alleged on November 18th, 2022. It says petitioner, quote, discovered an AirTag placed on the new car seat he had purchased for the minor child. One alleged to have occurred on December 3rd, 2022. Petitioner discovered an AirTag affixed to his vehicle and was able to establish it belonged to respondent. And then 12/24/2022, petitioner, quote, found an AirTag in baby wipes for the minor child's visit with the petitioner. Your Honor, turning back to the face of the statute 16590, it, again, to be stalking, first of all, needs to be an individual placed, quote, under surveillance. Your Honor, surveillance is not defined in the statute. However, it is defined in case law. And I'm specifically quoting this, Your Honor, from the case that is Jones versus State. That's 310 Georgia App 705. That case states, quote, although the statute fails to provide a definition of the term surveillance, the term is readily understood by people of ordinary intelligence as meaning a, quote, close watch kept over someone or something. And then it goes on to, in that case, to talk about how this particular defendant was put on notice that driving to, parking at, and sitting outside the residence where the victim was staying constituted surveillance. Your Honor, all case law with regards to stalking and temporary protective orders all involve someone physically being present with regards to the individual. There's another case, Your Honor, that is Sinclair versus Daly. That's 295 Georgia App 613. And this, Your Honor, goes to the element that requires that the actions themselves must put a reasonable individual in fear for their safety. All right, now we're talking about 3 allegations involving an AirTag. In Sinclair versus Daly, the court held that there was insufficient evidence to establish the elements required for stalking and that he was in reasonable fear for his safety. It said in that case that, according to Daly, he was concerned with Sinclair, but, quote, because, quote, my time was being taken up, and because, quote, if Sinclair, the respondent in that action, was suicidal, if he was willing to do violence to himself, would he do violence to me or my family? And then it goes on to say, because the offense of stalking is premised upon behavior, we cannot conclude that Daly's concern with Sinclair's alleged mental condition was sufficient to establish that Sinclair's actions had placed Daly in reasonable fear for his safety. There's no allegations here, Your Honor, of following. There's no allegations of physical contact, Your Honor. There's simply allegations of an AirTag being found in someone's, in a car seat and on someone's vehicle. In addition, Your Honor, I believe this is also a guiding case on this. This case is Quinby versus Roush. It is 300 Georgia App 424. In this case, Your Honor, the Court of Appeals actually did uphold the ruling of the trial court that a petition for temporary protective order should be granted under the stalking statute. In this case, Your Honor, it actually pointed out again that there was something physical here. As Roush says, Quinby admitted that she hired a private investigator to follow Roush, and Roush testified that he knew he was being followed and stated, I don't know what those people are going to do. I have no idea. I don't want to speculate on it. the court said that that could be inferred that Roush feared bodily harm or death when he discovered that he was being followed. Here, Your Honor, no one was being followed. There's no allegations that anyone was being followed. The only allegations, Your Honor, the only allegations that even can be considered by this court and respondent's opinion because they occurred outside of the residence would be related to the air tags. And the air tags themselves would do nothing to rise to the level of placing someone in reasonable fear for their safety, Your Honor. Thus, it's our position that under the clear black letter language of OCGA 16590, as well as the related case law and the definition of surveillance itself as set forth by the Court of Appeals in Jones versus State, that Mr. Peters' petition for temporary protective order fails to rise to a level of stating a claim upon which relief can be granted.
Did they live in the house together when the cameras were placed in, hidden behind some boxes in the garage?
That's correct, Your Honor. There's an agreement of counsel that we intend to introduce as an exhibit on December 22nd, 2022, which is when an agreement was reached that Mr. Peters would relocate from the marital residence.
Judge, if I may.
Yeah. Well, I'm just asking, so when was the camera that was hid in the garage behind boxes? What was that put there?
That was alleged per Mr. Peters' petition to have occurred on December 7th, 2022.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Ms. Willis.
Judge, first of all, I'd like to address the fact that although previous counsel for Ms. Peters did file a motion to dismiss, none of these arguments were made in that motion to dismiss, Your Honor. We have not had a chance to brief this issue on whether or not this qualifies as surveillance, and all we have today before the court are the 3 cases that counsel has cherry picked to present to the court. At minimum, we would like an opportunity to read the cases that Mr. Alexander has cited to and present our own case law if Your Honor is inclined to make a decision based off of his definitions. I would also like to point out that the case Mr. Alexander cited to last, Quimby versus Roush, there was no physical altercation between the people who were following the plaintiff in that action, and the plaintiff simply said that he was afraid, he did not know what would happen, and he didn't want to speculate. The same is true here, Your Honor. Although Ms. Peters has not actually, well, the testimony today will show that there is reason for Mr. Peters to be afraid of physical violence from Ms. Peters, and that she has in fact shown up at locations where he is in order to verbally accost him in front of and while holding the minor child. Your Honor, that goes back to Quimby versus Roush. He has a reasonable fear for his safety because of her previous actions, and that'll all be brought out during testimony today, Your Honor.
And this air tag in his car, Mr. Alexander, they were obviously separated then, or in the car seat, or given the child to him. I mean, what was the purpose of the air tag?
The purpose of the air tag, Your Honor, the evidence will show and testimony will be elicited that these parties have a historical use of an air tag. There's one that's kept in the diaper bag that the nanny uses. This is alleged that there's one in the car seat, that it was in order to determine the whereabouts of the minor child, and solely that, Your Honor. And Your Honor, if I may, I don't believe that I ever said physical altercation. But what I was pointing out is the physical presence of an individual who could have, in the Roush case, who could have inflicted some sort of harm on the respondent there. Here, there's no allegations of physical presence whatsoever. And certainly I will go ahead and say, to the extent that they are attempting to elicit any testimony today that is not reflected in the petition, that I would certainly object to any of that coming in, because I just heard counsel for petitioner allude to there's all these other incidents that would give rise to him being in fear, but I guess they didn't give rise enough to go into the petition. So I'd object to anything coming in that claims that there's other grounds beyond what was pled here as grounds for the TPO.
Judge, if I may, I'm not aware of any statute or procedure that prohibits the parties from testifying as to some matters that are outside of a pleading during a show cause hearing.
Your Honor, they have to be notice pleadings. It's a notice pleading. They need to put us on notice of the allegations that are going to be raised at any hearing.
Well, I mean, and then you would say they are, if it's hidden cameras or air tags or things like that, you're on notice of that type of behavior.
What I would say, Your Honor, in response to that is that obviously this is pled with specificity in terms of dates, in terms of whereabouts of cameras and things like that. But I believe counsel for petitioner also alluded to showing up at places, verbal altercations, things like that. Certainly nothing to that extent is raised whatsoever within this petition. Your Honor, frankly, these are divorce issues. There's a divorce case filed here. It was filed well before the petition for TPO. This is pure posturing for a divorce matter. We have a 17-month-old child here, Your Honor, and we have a petition for temporary protective order based on an air tag. We have a guardian ad litem here who's hearing this. Her focus should not be on this. Nothing has been filed in the divorce case claiming that there's an issue. No air tag has been brought up in a divorce case. No cameras have been brought up in a divorce case. Nothing whatsoever has been filed in the divorce case. They are simply attempting to use this honorable court to posture in the divorce matter. And there is other evidence, Your Honor, that there's other courts, including a court in Illinois, that is also being used to harass Miss McCowan Peters as part of the overall litigation involving the divorce and the minor child. This court should not allow Mr. Peters to use this court to go outside of the divorce matter to litigate matters involved that are this sensitive, that can have direct impact on Miss McCowan Peters' future, her career, her aspirations. The mother of this 17-month-old child should not be subjected to this. These are issues for a divorce court. These are issues for Miss White to take into consideration in forming her recommendation as part of her investigation. If Your Honor is to enter a protective order against Miss McCowan Peters, it is in essence destroying any ability she has to properly litigate her divorce case. She now has a restraining order from coming anywhere within the father of this child. He has not raised any of these issues whatsoever in the divorce matter, and I think that is exceptionally telling, Your Honor. None of this is before Judge Farmer, not one single allegation of it.
Judge, if I may, there has been one 30-day conference in the divorce matter. There is a temporary hearing coming up. But furthermore, one of these acts that we are alleging occurred after the divorce was served on Ms. Peters. So the standing order didn't do what it was supposed to do in terms of limiting Ms. Peters from stalking Mr. Peters. And that's why we sought this protective order, Your Honor. This is the only thing that has been stopping Ms. Peters from continuing these acts of stalking and surveillance against Mr. Peters. And Judge, we are not trying to posture in any way to present Mr. Peters in a better light to the divorce court. He's not asking that she not be allowed to come around the child in this case. There is a temporary parenting plan in place right now until the parties are actually able to go to the temporary hearing in March, Judge. And as Your Honor knows, I'm not sure if Your Honor recalls, but when we came in for the ex parte, I actually altered the petition that is standard to include that the parties can be around each other for the exchange of the child. There's no reason outside of that Ms. Peters needs to be in Mr. Peters' proximity outside of a courtroom, which clearly does not apply to the parameters of a TPO.
Your Honor, this is clearly an emergency for Mr. Peters as it pertains to this court, but it is not an emergency for Mr. Peters as it pertains to the divorce court. He is not even attempting to raise it. That does not matter if there's not a 30-day status conference during which to raise these issues. Your Honor is well aware that they could file for an emergency hearing. They could file for expedited relief. They could file for contempt of the standing order. They have done none of that, Your Honor.
Judge, and certainly we would. Ex parte has been in place for the past 30 days or longer. It's been, we had this hearing in January 11th, and this ex parte has been in place. There's no reason at this point for us to need to bring it to the divorce court. We will, if this TPO is denied today and not extended for the next 12 months, then we will raise it in the divorce case. But there's no reason that Ms. Peters needs to continue placing air tags on my client's car and stalking him. And I don't understand exactly how that we are at fault for not raising something in the divorce case and asking for an additional emergency hearing when we had this one in place, Judge.
That's right, Your Honor, because they want 2 bites at the apple. You just heard from Mr. Peters' counsel that if Your Honor denies the TPO, then it will become an issue for the divorce court. Not it's an issue for the divorce court right away. It's an emergency issue. It just so happens that all the orders of continuance filed in both cases, Your Honor, both civil action numbers at the top. So there is no excuse whatsoever. Ms. White's order appointing Ms. White as guardian entered in both cases, Your Honor. This civil action, I know, Your Honor, I saw Your Honor's signature. And I appreciate it. We're very excited to have Ms. White involved in this matter. However, there is nothing that would have prevented anything from being filed in the divorce case. They want 2 bites at the apple. They want Your Honor to do something that they don't think the divorce court would do. But if they're not going to get the relief from Your Honor, then they're going to bring it up as an issue to the divorce court. That is not the purpose of this family violence court, Your Honor.
Well, I don't know if Ms. Willis knows this, but Ms. White does a lot of times, and 15% of the time, maybe even 20, there's competing TPOs and divorces, and then that's why I'm hearing a case next week, special set case from Judge Newkirk. There's a competing TPO, and I heard a lot of it, so then I end up hearing them both. We're Judge Farmer, but I will. When is your temporary hearing?
I believe that's scheduled for March 20th, Your Honor.
Judge, if I may briefly, per counsel's argument, I'm not really sure how we can win here, as he stated that there's a complaint that we are filing too many lawsuits against Ms. Peters in order to harass her. If we had asked for an emergency hearing in the divorce case, that would be another hearing that she had to address prior to the temporary hearing in the divorce case, as well as attending this hearing. So we're in a bit of a catch-22 per counsel's arguments. I'm not sure how we can resolve that without harassing her or having going forward with this hearing.
Actually, Your Honor, that directly goes to the legitimate fear for his safety. It is only enough of an issue to bring up to this court, but the divorce court is just going to know about this if it's denied here. Otherwise, the protective order is going to reign supreme. That is, again, simply not what this court is for, Your Honor. This is a divorce issue that should be addressed by Judge Farmer with regards to air tags taken into account by Ms. White in her investigation, but this does not rise to the level of stalking, and it is not appropriate for the court to be presiding over this hearing when this all can be resolved at the upcoming temporary hearing.
Judge, as I stated before, there is relief that this court can provide for Mr. Peters that the divorce court cannot. As I stated before, one of these acts occurred after the standing order went into place. She still committed the acts of stalking and harassing against Mr. Peters. This order will gives him something that he can hold in his hand and call the police if need be, if he is fearful for his safety. The divorce court cannot provide that. This is a specific set of relief that is going to protect him and keep him safe during the pendency of this divorce.
Okay, so, I mean, without hearing testimony of this air tag, has there been more air tags placed? I don't know. Maybe since then there's been more air tags placed. I don't know. And so There you go. And after this, there's a divorce where the air tags was the nanny still handling the kid. It's in there. Somehow they think, you know, something may be going on. But these folks need some sort of relief. Obviously. I mean, I've had a case with AirTag has been stalking where they've exchanged a child and they've exchanged the child and all of a sudden either mom and or dad, I forget which one it was, but placed an AirTag in there so that when the kid's with the other parent, they can see where they're at. It's not necessarily for the kid, it's you know, a roundabout way to try to see where the other parent is when they're with the kid, which that's their own private time. So if Ms. Willis, you're asking for a little bit more time to respond to a brief or something. I mean,
Judge, if you need me to brief, if you're the issue of stalking, if you have not heard enough today via argument, then I'm happy to do that. But we would like to move forward today on the substance of this matter.
So, Mr. Alexander, I mean, I'll look up these cases and read it to you too, and I will. What I'll do is we'll have the hearing. I'll wait on the briefs, and then if I put it in place, I'll extend the ex parte, and we'll come back like next week. I have probably Wednesday. I have a special set 2-day trial that's supposed to go. That's one from Judge Newkirk. And that should give y'all time, right? That should give you time, Ms. Willis?
Sure, Judge, I'll make it happen.
Oh yeah, I know you probably have, or I can place y'all back on next Friday.
That'll be fine, Judge.
It can be, I mean, it doesn't have to be real, like, you just want to do like a letter thing, you know, it doesn't have to be all 1.5, you know, stuff like that. It could be.
So just to be clear, Your Honor, we're going to move forward with evidence and testimony today and then come back next week to do the motion to dismiss argument?
Right.
Okay.
Because I mean, I may hear it. If it's not that, then I may deny it, but because I don't know without her offering testimony if it's, I mean, it's this AirTag once, but has he found more since he's filed it? I don't know that. Oh, here it is.
Your Honor, with respect to the two claims that occurred within the residence itself, I would ask that I don't believe the court needs any case law with regards to that. That is was the residence of the respondent. That is where she still resides. There is no allegation to the contrary with regards to that, Your Honor.
Judge, again, I haven't researched this issue, but there quite possibly could be a carve out for an area that is private to a party in the residence that is not private, that is not open to the other party. This was in the basement of the home where Mr. Peters has a home office essentially down there. There was no reason for Ms. Peters to place a recording device into his business bag and equipment filled with documents to surveil him. He did not know of this, and I'm interested to see if there's case law to support the argument that he had a reasonable expectation of privacy, even despite the fact that it was in the same residence as Ms. Peters.
Your Honor, a reasonable expectation of privacy has nothing to do with anything here. Place or places is specifically defined by statute. There's no carve out within the statute. It specifically says other than the residence of the defendant, period. This is where she lives.
So, but here, I mean, and there might be, and I'm gonna look and see if there's some cases. I get that because it says there's an exception. However, there could be another. I mean, when was this camera in the place that he only uses installed? You know, was it installed when they were already broken up? Was it installed like on this date and he just happened to see it?
Your Honor, per his own petition, all of them, he filed for divorce on December 13th, 2022. None of these were alleged to have been discovered after that date.
That's incorrect, Your Honor. There was an air tag
I'm
found.
sorry. I'm sorry. On the cameras, yes, there's one that was alleged to have been discovered on December 17th. But with regard specifically to the cameras that were found in respondent's residence.
Okay, and I'm asking the one in his office, how long had that camera been there, is what I'm saying.
Judge, he discovered it on December 17th. I have no idea how long it had been there recording his business conversations.
And is it connected to, and there's probably some case like, what, is it connected to somewhere where he could have accessed the video? You know, is it like go to Ring or Arlo or one of those systems where he could access this? Those are questions.
Nest camera, Your Honor.
Okay, yeah, Nest in. If, you know, is that video on there and does he have access to that?
He does not have access to it, Your Honor.
Has he ever had, or is it just that one camera?
No, Judge. There are 3 Nest cameras that were in the marital residence that he was aware of and had access to. Ms. Peters even revoked his access to those devices after he moved out of the marital residence. This device, he never had any knowledge of, nor was it registered to the same system as the 3 known Nest cameras.
So I want to hear some, like it's already 3:43. I have a feeling this is going to go a little bit longer. I really don't want to be leaving the courthouse at dark. So let's get started. Let's hear some testimony. And I'm going to keep this in mind.
Your Honor, I do want to say for the record that respondent would object to the continuation of the ex parte TPO beyond today.
Okay, well, if you want me to make a ruling after hearing it today, then I'll make a ruling.
We would like a ruling today, Your Honor. Yes, that's correct.
Then
Which
let's
would
go forward.
encompass
Go
the motion
ahead.
to dismiss.
We don't need openings. Well, right now, I'm going to deny your motion. So
Thank
go
you.
ahead, Ms. Lowe. But I don't need openings, just call your witness.
Yes, sir, Judge. We call Mr. Peters to the stand.
All right, Mr. Peters, you just take yourself off mute. Mr. Peters, if Mr. Alexander makes an objection, stop talking, let him make his objection. Let Ms. Willis respond, let me rule, then you can answer the question, okay? Go ahead, Ms.
Yes,
Willis.
Your Honor.
Mr. Peters, will you please state your full name for the record?
Alton Adrian Peters.
And what is your relationship to the respondent?
She's my wife
How long have you all been married?
since September 2016.
And are you currently separated?
Yes.
Are you currently living in the same home?
No.
When did you move out of the marital residence?
I started moving out in December 2022.
Okay, and do you and the respondent have any children together?
Yes.
And what is the child's name?
Henry Adrian Peters.
How old is Henry?
He's just over 17 months.
And what do you do for a living, Mr. Peters?
I'm a renewable energy consultant and advisor.
Okay. What are your current work hours like?
They're flexible. I oversee and run my own business. And so I set my own hours.
Okay. And you said you moved out of the marital residence. Where are you currently residing?
In Buckhead, Atlanta.
Okay. What's the address?
3648 Peachtree Road Northeast, 2G, Atlanta, Georgia, 30319.
Okay. And Mr. Peters, why are you here today?
Because I need protection from.
Your Honor, I would object. This calls for a colloquy.
Okay, yeah, don't give me a big colloquy, just make it simple, Mr. Peters.
Because I need I'm here and I've been in this courtroom in the past because I need protection from my wife, from the things that she's been doing to me and how she is.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Willis.
Mr. Peters, I'm going to start from November 18th. On that date, did you purchase something new for Henry?
I didn't purchase it new for him. I had a car seat that I was going to put in my car, and I was it would be just dedicated to my car. We had a car seat, but it stayed of the exact same model, but it stayed exclusively in the car that Candace drove. Now that car that I refer to is a car that I drive. It actually belongs to my parents, and so I use it when I'm in Georgia. Sometimes it's in Florida, other places. But I had a car seat so that whatever car that I was in, their car or rental or whatever, I could transport Henry.
Okay. And who installed the car in your vehicle?
Who installed the car seat?
Correct.
Yeah. Candace did.
Okay. And why was that?
Well, she saw the box that it was a brand new car seat. She saw the box on the table, and I had an appointment with the fire department to install it in a couple of days. And she said she wanted to install it to ensure that it was done correctly and so forth. And that, the settings of the various devices matched what Henry liked. And so she installed it.
All right. And did you find anything affixed to the car seat?
I did. As most people might know that have seen modern car seats, they have lots of different compartments and spaces and so forth. And so there was an AirTag beneath in one of those compartments beneath the padding for Henry that was active.
Okay. And had anyone informed you that they were placing an AirTag there?
No.
All right. How did you go about finding it?
This car seat she has, and I've seen her install it very, very quickly, like within seconds, and I've had mine and I can get it in and out of the car within usually something like 10 seconds. And it was a 15-minute exercise to do it. Now I said that, hey, I want to go out and watch you do it as I would do at the fire department to see like how you're doing it. And so she's installing the car seat and then looking up videos on Google, and I was with Henry, like playing around with him. And so it happened then, but afterward, when I was adjusting it and making sure that I understood where it was and that nothing was going to stick into or poke Henry, deep in one of the compartments, I felt a lump, and that was the tracker.
Okay. And how were you able to determine who the AirTag belonged to?
I was.
And how did you figure that out?
Well, they're Apple, who manufactures the AirTag, they've released some apps that allow you to determine, and others to determine, if you're in the presence of an AirTag, and if so, is it somebody that's, are you in the presence of an AirTag that's not with somebody you're with? And so I had the AirTag with me, and it would, pop up on that app, and then I'd go back into Candace's presence and it would kind of go away. And then you do that a bunch of times when you're the only people around, and you discover the commonality of this is that it's linked to Candace and her phone.
And what did you do with the AirTag?
Well, initially, I left it where it was because I thought it would be, explosive if I immediately removed it, and I thought that there would be additional tracking. But then when I left several days later, I removed it from the car seat, and I just wrapped it in foil. And actually, the location of the tracker was such that I was always somewhat concerned that.
I would object to this as non-responsive, Your Honor.
Okay. She'll have to ask you a question, Mr. Peters, okay? She can ask you a question about something. Go ahead, Ms. Willis.
Mr. Peters, what was unique about the location of the AirTag?
That it seemed in a spot that could only annoy and cause discomfort to our son Henry. And so rather than leaving it there and forcing him to be uncomfortable, initially when I kept it in the car, I removed it from where it was located in the padding where there should be nothing, right there. Everybody knows you don't modify these things. And I just put it in the console.
Okay. Do I have the AirTags now?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have the 3 air tags with me. It, as Exhibit 4, they are wrapped in tinfoil so that they can't be traced right now. If Your Honor would like to see them outside of the tinfoil, I'm happy to unwrap them. I would prefer to keep them wrapped, but I can unwrap them if Your Honor would like.
I mean, I'm fine. You're an officer of the court. So there's 3 air tags.
Correct, Judge.
Okay. I've just heard about 1, right?
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Do you all have a nanny for Henry?
Henry has had a nanny for a bunch of his life, yes.
What is his nanny's name that you guys have used in Georgia?
Lauren Hill.
Okay. Does Lauren use the car seat in your vehicle at any point when she is watching Henry?
No,
Does she use your vehicle at any point when she is watching Henry?
no,
Okay. Was this the only air tag you found in your belongings?
no.
Okay. I want to turn to December 3rd. Did you find another air tag that day?
Yes,
Okay. And where was this air tag located?
it was affixed to the undercarriage of the car that I mentioned that's the subject of this petition, the Kia
Okay.
Telluride.
All right. How did you find that?
I was checking the air pressure in the tire, and I was kind of wondering what was going on, and I got underneath the car and I saw a glint of something. And so then I went underneath the car and found an air tag, in that case, in a weatherproof case with an adhesive on it. And so it had been in that case and was stuck to the underside of the car.
Okay. And were you able to find out who that air tag belonged to?
I went through the same process that I described previously and identified it as connecting to Candace's iCloud account.
Okay. And had Miss Peters informed you that she was placing the air tag on your vehicle?
No.
Had she asked your permission to do so?
No. And by the way, I mentioned earlier, again, I've used the vehicle, but it's not mine.
Sure. What all do you use the vehicle for?
I use it to transport Henry, to go to the grocery store, for work purposes, for interstate travel, all the reasons people use a car.
There are times when Henry is not in the vehicle with you while you're using it.
Yes, certainly.
So
Most of the time that I'm, using it, he's not riding around with me. I log more miles than he does.
So the air tag could track you when you're going to the office?
Objection leading, Your Honor.
All right, rephrase.
Mr. Peters, could the air tag track you when you are doing your everyday things?
Objection calls for speculation. I don't think he knows what the air tag is, whether it's on. Calls for speculation.
Actually, I do know the answer to that, but
Your Honor, I'm not sure exactly what the speculation objection is exactly referring to. I think it's common knowledge what an air tag can or can't do. If we would like to stipulate as to the purpose of an air tag.
We will not stipulate to that, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, I'm familiar, so I don't know how you turn them off. Remember, you can disconnect from them, but I think I'll just allow him what he believes.
Mr. Peters, can the air tag track you when you're doing your everyday things?
yes.
Okay. All right. Did you find a third air tag?
Yes.
And when did you discover that one?
The morning of December 24th.
All right. And when was Miss Peters served with the divorce papers?
Prior to then, I don't remember.
Okay. You're certain it was prior to December 24th, though?
Yes.
Okay. Was that during your parenting time with Henry?
Yes, it was. There had been an agreement about when Henry would spend which days and around the holidays.
And where did you find this third AirTag?
It was in a bag that Candace gave me of Henry's things, in a container of, lack of a better word, wet wipes, and it was between the sheets of the it was between the sheets of the individual wipes, such that to get at the AirTag, I sort of had to remove half the wipes from the little container, then get the AirTag and like try to stuff the wipes back in there.
And had Miss Peters informed you that she was placing an AirTag in the wipes?
No,
Had she asked your permission to put an AirTag in the wipes?
no.
All right. And were you able to determine who this AirTag belonged to?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any valid reason why there would need to be a tracking device in Henry's baby wipes?
No.
All right. The respondent has, I apologize. You all used AirTags when you were living in New York. Is that correct?
I would say that's inaccurate.
Okay. Tell me about the use of AirTags in New York.
Candace said that she put an AirTag in the front pouch or tray of our baby carriage, and that would therefore give her the ability to track where that carriage was when it was with the nanny. I never actually saw that AirTag there, and I never, I never went on the service and tracked it or monitored it or whatever. And so I say it's inaccurate not because there wasn't an AirTag, but it's only because Candace said there was an AirTag and that she was tracking the nanny and that she was using it, but I never used it, never saw it. But one thing I do know from talking to our nanny is that our nanny was aware that there was a tracking device in the carriage because she had been told.
Sure. What about when you guys moved to Georgia? Did you guys use AirTags to track Lauren, your current nanny?
I was never aware that she was being tracked.
Were you involved in the purchase of any of these AirTags?
No.
Okay. All right. All right. Did you find any other recording or tracking devices in your belongings that were not AirTags?
Not that I'm, other than the cameras that we've mentioned as in this hearing.
Sure. I'm going to need you to testify about those.
Okay.
Tell me about the recording devices you found in your belongings.
Your Honor, I would object for the record based on relevance, based on the argument that it cannot rise the level of stalking based on it occurring in respondent's residence. I understand your Honor's already ruled on this. I'm just objecting for the record.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Willis. And I think I'm sitting here, I've been listening, but also looking at this to see if there's some sort of, I guess it would be exception for something like that, like hiding a camera someone doesn't know about, putting it in a bathroom. So I think there might be some, so go ahead, Ms. Willis. I'm still looking, I'm gonna let him testify about it. I'll give it the weight I think.
Mr. Peters, tell me about the recording devices that you found in your belongings.
So our former marital residence was a townhouse, a 3-level townhouse, where the bottom level was kind of a basement that was around the corner from the garage. It became a depository for a lot of the things that we just didn't unpack when we moved in late June, or excuse me, late July, early August, right? Like boxes and so forth, but also like my business files, and over time it accumulated my personal items as well, because I had stopped sleeping in our bedroom, and I had begun to sleep on the couch, the pull-out couch in the basement where there was an office, a desk that I could use. And so I found a camera in my personal effects while I was searching through those old boxes, most of which hadn't been moved for months. While I was kind of going through those boxes in my personal effects, when they were there, I found this device.
Was the device on when you found it?
It was lit up. It's a wireless. It appeared to be a wireless device, and it had a light that was on.
Okay. Did you have any knowledge of that prior to finding it?
No.
Were you aware of any Nest cameras in your home?
I was aware of 3.
Okay, tell me about those 3. Where were they?
In our Roswell townhouse, the residence I just mentioned, one was in Henry's room. One was in our living room, or whatever you want to call it, the main room of the townhouse. And one was across the living space, kind of bookending in the dining room. And they were basically designed to encapsulate the space in which Henry had freedom of motion.
All right. Did you have access to those Nest cameras?
Yes, we had those same Nest cameras kind of with a similar setup in New York, and I had access there. And then when we moved to Georgia, I had access until that access was terminated in December.
Your Honor, permission to show my screen, share my screen. I'm showing you what's been marked as plaintiff's exhibit 6B. What is this document, Mr. Peters?
This is an email that I received from Google or one of their entities telling me when I was removed from, when my access was terminated to the 3 Nest cameras that I just mentioned, the one in Henry's room, and then the one in the dining room, and in the living room.
Were those Nest I'm sorry. Is this email or is this screenshot an accurate and fair representation of the email you received from Google Nest?
Yes.
Has it been altered in any substantial way?
I think the logos, I think it was color, but it's, this is a black and white rendition of it.
Sure.
I don't know if that's what you mean.
Your Honor, this time I would tender plaintiff's exhibit 6B into evidence.
Any objection?
2 objections, Your Honor. One, it has no probative value for the issue before Your Honor. This was dated, it appears, December 19th, 2022. All allegations with regards to cameras, and specifically Nest cameras, ended in December 17th, 2022. Additionally, it is classic hearsay that's being offered for the truth of the matter asserted.
Your Honor, this goes to whether or not Mr. Peters had knowledge of certain Nest cameras in his home. Respondent presented argument during his motion to dismiss that he had access to all of the Nest cameras. This goes to show that he does not even have access to the ones he had knowledge of anymore, because Ms. Peters has terminated his access to the known cameras.
Okay, I'll just allow it for that, just simple proof. Simple part about proving that he didn't have access after December 19th.
Mr. Peters, can you tell us when your access was restricted to the Nest cameras based off this document?
About that date, I can't remember if it was that Monday, or if it was actually suspended the next day. When you get the email, it says it will happen soon. So it happened, basically, if it hadn't happened then, it was shortly thereafter.
Okay. So are you able to access the cameras in the marital residence anymore?
No.
Okay. All right. Were the cameras that you had knowledge of, were they open and obvious in the home?
Yes.
Did you all inform the nanny about the cameras, that the 3 that you were aware of?
Yes, we did.
Okay. But the one that you found in your belongings, that was not open and obvious, was it?
It was not, because it was wireless. So the 3 Nest cameras that you've mentioned, they all have long wires coming out of them, and they're, you know, perched up high, and so no one could fail to see the camera and the long wires kind of snaking back to an electrical socket. The one that was in my personal effects was completely hidden.
All right, and let's talk about the basement a little bit more. Was the basement ever used as a play area for Henry?
No.
And did you tell me about the surroundings of things that might be exposed in the basement area?
Things that might be exposed? Could you clarify?
Sure. Is there anything in the basement that would have been dangerous for Henry?
Sure. There were half packed, half unpacked boxes. There were lots of books that were stacked up really high that could potentially topple over on him. There was a serrated knife among those boxes that'd been, used to cut, packing tape. There's a bathroom down there that until recently had, unsecured cleaning agents in it. None of the plugs down there have the little child safety. None of the sockets have the child safety plugs. So it's, all of those things.
Okay, and was the rest of your house that Henry actually played in, was that baby proofed?
It was. I mean, the stairway leading down to that basement was behind a baby gate, which is why the things on the other side of it, the garage and that room, were not baby proof. But in the rest of the house, there were the U locks on the cabinets that stopped the cabinets from opening, and the plugs, the sockets all had baby plugs. And in general, we kept cords and those sort of things out of his zone, and there weren't things that could, that he could easily, reach and topple over onto himself.
Okay. And you stated that you were sleeping in the basement and you had a desk in there. Were you operating your business out of the basement at times?
Yes.
Did you speak on the phone about proprietary information while you were in the basement?
On the phone and like this on the computer via Teams and Zoom.
Okay. Did you raise any issues about the three Nest cameras you had knowledge of in this petition?
No.
Okay. All right. There is a pending divorce case, correct?
Yes.
And has it been filed and served on Ms. Peters?
Yes.
Are you aware of a standing order and whether or not that went into place upon the divorce being served on Ms. Peters?
Yes.
All right. Tell me about Ms. Peters, the relationship and the temperature of the relationship between you and Ms. Peters right now.
I would object based on the relevancy of that, Your Honor. This is to prove the allegations set forth in the petition, not to discuss the temperature of their relationship.
Your Honor, this goes to whether or not his fear is reasonable.
I mean, I'm curious at the timing of the removing access and what had happened. Were they separated this time? Discussed the divorce. So I'm going to allow it for that, because as far as, what exactly was going on that caused she think it was cheating. I mean, I'm interested in that. So go ahead.
Mr. Peters, tell me about the temperature of you and Ms. Peters' relationship.
Well, to the judge's kind of query, there's been no cheating in our relationship, at least no cheating that I'm aware of. But we had our relationship was one that was characterized by a lot of volatility and verbal, and sometimes more than verbal, violence on the part of my wife, Candace. And it rose to the level of seeking a divorce because she engaged in those activities over my objection around our son, Henry. Specifically, prior to the granting of this petition of this TPO, there were numerous incidents wherein she was yelling and cursing extensively around my son while holding around our son while holding our son. And in more than one instant, when I asked her if not that she could stop cursing at me, but whether she could stop cursing around Henry, her response was to not only curse me out, but to say absolutely, I'm paraphrasing because there was a lot of profanity, like that she wasn't going to desist from the profanity, but actually would redouble her efforts and use even more. And so us having contact with each other, and by the way, in the history of our relationship since September 2016.
Your Honor, I would object. This is not
I've never
at this point.
I'm sorry.
We're getting back into the history since 2016 based on a question of what is the temperature of your relationship. This is non-responsive, Your Honor.
Yeah, I was really kind of talking about like that time. Had y'all like on the
Not in the divorce hearing.
right? If you said I want a divorce on December 1st, where that was, I guess that time when.
Sure. So, Your Honor, like this profanity and this cursing around my son and so forth continued on after the petition was filed. In fact, it happened, the morning of December 24th, right before I.
When did the two of you talk about like, somebody said I want a divorce. So when did you or Miss McCowan Peters say to you, I want a divorce, move out, or you said to her, I want a divorce, I'm moving out, or you move out? When did that happen?
I think the answer to that would be August 31st. There was an incident where, again, I was being cursed out and yelled at while she was holding Henry. And I asked her, why do you want to, be married? And she said, that's an assumption. I said, do you want to be married? And she said, I don't want to talk about it, but get ready. And
So
I would say that.
Was there anything in December that
yes.
you said, what happened in December? Because you moved out at some point. So what was it? You obviously moved into the basement at some point because something was said, like you're not sleeping.
Sure. So in December here, I actually went to Safe Families on the 21st.
No, I'm talking about with her.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Judge.
Yeah, so with her, like at some point you moved out of the bedroom and y'all decided, okay, it's over.
Yeah, on the 24th of December,
okay.
I went to pick up Henry. I previously mentioned that was the date that we had agreed.
Mr.
And
Peters,
sure.
she's asking about what caused you to move out of the marital bedroom?
But yeah, when did you move out? I mean, obviously you're saying there's cameras. And so something happened. Either you said, I want a divorce. She said she wants a divorce. Something happened that you moved out of the bedroom. And what date did you move out of the bedroom and say, I'm sleeping in the basement. You can have that. We're done. I mean, when did that happen?
I think I started sleeping in the basement exclusively sometime in early November, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm just trying to get her. All right, go ahead, Ms. Willis.
Okay, Mr. Peters, what was the catalyst for that? Was there a breaking point or was it just a culmination of frustration?
I would object based on relevance. This is we're testifying now to the causes of the separation, which is quintessential divorce litigation, not for a temporary protective order.
So I guess what I'm trying to think about is if he was there when the 3 main cameras were installed, at some point these other cameras were installed. So there had to have been a trigger. Either there was a break-in at the house or something triggered the installation of these other 2 cameras. So I would assume, I mean, in a way that if they're being put in on his car that he drives and in the car seat, in the car that he drives, when that was put in there, had he already moved into the basement? Had they said we're getting a divorce? Was it obvious? I mean, something triggered the installation of these other cameras.
So, Your Honor, Your Honor, I don't actually know when the cameras were placed. I only know when I found them. I can say that when I found the tracking devices, I had long been sleeping in the basement, outside the.
Okay, so when you found those, when the 3 cameras were installed, I mean, were you there when they were installed? And it's like, okay, these are our 3 cameras.
You're talking about the Nest cameras to which I had access? Yes, absolutely. I knew where the locations were. I proved them. We had discussions around whether Henry could pull them down and those sorts of things. And we pointed them out to, people that came in.
So tell me, something happened for her to remove your access. Was there a fight?
Something happened that when she installed the 2 cameras I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Is that the question?
You got that email. You got the email from Nest
Yes.
saying we're removing your access. Had you found those other cameras and confronted her, or just you got this email out of the blue?
I had not found the camera. I never confronted her about the cameras. I just got the email out of the blue, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Willis.
Okay, is it common for there to be yelling and aggression between you and Miss Peters?
No, it is common for there to be yelling and aggression directed at me by Candace, but I don't curse out my wife. Never have.
Okay. Tell me about the time when you picked up Henry and took him to the park.
I went to the.
I'm going to object to this question, Your Honor, based on relevance. Again, that we have very specific allegations in this petition, which petitioner is required to prove by a preponderance of the evidence. I have no idea where this comes from about him being at the park with the minor child. There's nothing whatsoever in the petition that references an incident at the park.
So how is that relevant, Ms. Willis?
Again, Your Honor, it goes to his reasonable fear. That is part of the statute. He's required to prove that this testimony is going to need context to why he has reasonable fear.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about some fear. So go ahead.
Your Honor, if I may, for the record, though, the fear has to be based on the actions that they have pled. That is very clear from the case law. It has to be from the actions that they have pled, not as a result of these things that they've decided to throw in during their direct examination and give Miss McCowan-Peters no notice to prepare for.
So I don't know if I don't know what's going to be said about the park yet. So, I mean, I'll hear it and just determine whether or not I should take. I don't know.
Your Honor, neither do we. That's the problem, Your Honor. There's been no allegation surrounding it.
Your Honor.
Ask the question again. Let me hear it.
Sure. Was there a recent incident that occurred between you and Miss McCowan when you had taken Henry to the park?
Is it recent, meaning post filing of this TPO?
No, Judge.
Okay. What time are we talking about?
Sure. Mr. Peters, do you recall the date of that incident?
December 18th.
Okay. Tell me about what occurred on December 18th.
Your Honor, I'm just going to raise the same objection. This was filed December 29th, yet there's no reference whatsoever to any alleged incident occurring on December 18th.
The following day, December the 18th, that's the moment I can't read it.
I am happy to read it, Your Honor.
Confirmed, to the respondent about the devices being found in his vehicle, tracking him, and admitted to having placed it there. So I'm trying to hit like, so something happened on the 18th, because it's right there. So maybe this is the, go ahead, just tell me what happened on the 18th.
I picked my son was with the nanny. I went to the townhouse. I saw that he was watching television. I told the nanny that I was going to take him to the park and then take him to dinner, packed him up and left. I was at the park playing with him, and shortly thereafter, I got a call from Candace. She was very upset and asked me where I was, and I told her I was at the park, and she said, "I don't know if I believe you. I should call the police." And she said specifically, "We're going to be in front of a judge on Monday over this." And I think that was like, I can't remember what day of the week it was. It was late in the week. And so, a couple minutes later, her parents showed up at that park, in their cars, and were, watching us play. And so I played with Henry for a while, packed him up, and I was taking him to dinner. And then I noticed behind me that Candace, who had been at work at that time, had come up and was actually like following me. And so, and I'd mentioned to her parents, I said, "Look, if you want to follow me, here's where I'm taking him to dinner. If you want to you can follow her, you can meet me there." But Candace had come off work in Atlanta and was now following the car. And so then when we got to the restaurant, I was taking Henry out of his car seat, the previously mentioned car seat, and she snatched him away from me out of my arms and simply refused to either go in or whatever, was like, this is over. And so I just, I couldn't have that opportunity to take my son to dinner. And I took him to a place, he likes quesadillas, so I was gonna take him to a place that has good quesadillas.
Your Honor,
and so later we were at the house,
and
and she admitted at that time that she had placed the tracking devices.
I would voice my objection again, Your Honor, to any of this being considered. The sole reference to December 18th is that petitioner confronted respondent about devices, and petitioner found in his vehicle tracking him, and respondent admitted to having placed it there. Now I've got an allegation about being tailed. I've got an allegation about third parties showing up. I've got an allegation about snatching the child. None of this has been pled, Your Honor, none of it. And that was his opportunity to do so.
I don't know if he was finished. I'm assuming you're getting to where you confronted her about these, because you found the trackers, but you didn't remove it from your car. You kept it in the console. So are you getting to the confrontation?
Afterward, I was at the house, and I asked her, or at that point accused her of having placed tracking devices on the car, and she admitted that she had.
Did things escalate after the confrontation while you were still at the home?
Yes, she used extensive again, Henry was right there. She used extensive profanity, kept closing the distance with me, and jabbing her finger in my face, and at one point balled up her fist and shook it at me, kind of made like one of these kind of gestures. All very unfortunate, very typical stuff from Candace. If you when she closes space, yells at people, curses at them, and threatens them, and that's what happened to me.
Your Honor, at this time, I would request to play a recording, which has been labeled as Plaintiff's Exhibit 2, related to this incident. I will play a bit for Mr. Peters to identify himself in the recording.
Is this audio recording?
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
Mr. Peters, can you identify could y'all hear that? No?
I mean, I could hear it, but I couldn't tell who it was, obviously.
Okay, you could, okay. Apologize. Let me turn my volume up. Okay. Could y'all hear that one?
I can hear it. It's a little muffled, but I mean, I can hear it.
Mr. Peters, could you identify the voices in this recording?
That's Candace and me.
All right, and has this recording been changed or altered in any substantial way?
I don't think so. It wasn't by me.
Is this a recording that you took on your device?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time we would tender plaintiff's exhibit 2 in the evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Oh, do you hear your cases for taking up the
I can't, because I'm not going to, because again, I pay rent for this place. My name is on the lease. This is my house. And so I'm gonna come in and do what I want.
You okay?
I'm not.
This doesn't happen when you're not around. This doesn't happen when you're not around. You might be so you don't even give a shit about that child. You do not give a shit about that child.
Stop.
You get stuck out of the house because your mother's the one who uses all the terms. Your mom called me a 50-year-old man. I was spoiled brat. You know,
You don't.
I do 100%.
You don't have to.
Your fucking friends.
Okay.
How much of a deadbeat, abandoned father, absent father that you are.
You're welcome to do that. You're welcome to do that.
You've got so many enemies that you made. You've got so I got tons of allies.
I'm not worried about it. I think that we each other and each other.
Yeah, you're a rabid. Mr. Peters, can you tell us who those voices in the background are?
Candace's parents, Myra McCown and Melvin McCown.
Okay, is this typical of a conversation between you and Candace?
To the extent that what she's doing is cursing at me and refusing to stop and, you know, elevating her. Yes.
Was Henry present during this altercation?
Yes. In fact, you can hear her say in that video or in that audio, you know, when he starts crying that because she's yelling that, you know, it doesn't happen. That doesn't happen when I'm not around. I mean, he was there. He was very upset.
Sure. All right. In those moments, are you afraid of what may happen if the conversation continues to escalate?
Yes.
Okay. Was there also an incident that occurred on December 24th?
Yes.
All right. Tell me about that day. What happened on the 24th?
Your Honor, I would object to any testimony beyond the specific allegations that on 12/24/2022, petitioner found an air tag in the baby wipes respondent packed for the minor child's visit with petitioner. He has already testified to that. I do not know what they're going to get into for the 24th, but certainly this was filed after the 24th, and any allegation of any incident that occurred on the 24th should have been put into the petition for a protective order.
Ms. Willis, what are you, Proctor, what it is you want him to testify?
Sure, Judge. This is another altercation that occurred the same day he found the third air tag in his belongings She continues to retaliate against him when she's angry by placing air tags in his things, and this will give context to those allegations.
Okay, just briefly.
Sure, Mr. Peters, can you briefly describe what occurred on the 24th?
Briefly, Candace cursed me out when I went over to pick up Henry as we had agreed. And in the context of doing that, slapped me across the face and caught her finger on my eye while holding Henry.
And Mr. Peters, this was after she was served with the divorce papers, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you come to know that there had been an agreement between attorneys that you were not aware of?
I eventually came to know that, yes.
Okay, and what was your understanding of that agreement?
What was my
I
understanding?
object to lack of foundation, Your Honor. I'm not sure at all what we're talking about here.
Yeah, what are we?
Judge, I
talking-
can move on. I can move on.
All right, sustain, go ahead.
Your Honor, I have a second recording for the court that's been labeled as Plaintiff's Exhibit 8.
What was the date on this one?
Oh, this is December 24th, Judge.
Oh, this is the recording of the confrontation?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, let me see if it's.
You said that. No, give me the code. Give me the fucking code. Whoa.
Can you identify those voices for us, Mr. Peters?
Candace and me?
Is this a recording that you made on your cell phone?
Yes.
And has it been changed or altered in any substantial way?
No.
Your Honor, we would tender Plaintiff's Exhibit 8 into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll hear it and I'll give it the weight it, deems. If it doesn't need any weight to it, then I'll consider. Go ahead.
Guys. Whoa. Give me the code. Stop. Stop. Get the fuck out of my nose. No,
So that was it, because I don't hear anything. Is that it, Ms. Willis? All I heard was like,
Sure, Your Honor, I can have him just testify about the circumstances and what occurred afterwards.
so that was the recording was just that little.
No, Judge, I was planning to play another minute and a half of it.
Oh, okay. So go ahead. I thought that was it. That's why I was like, okay.
No, Judge.
No, you're putting it in my house. That's a fucking bullshit. Then get the fuck out of my house and I won't. I understand. This is awful. You didn't touch me. You didn't touch me. And let me. You need to come in here. Get out of my house. Then you can take that. You need to come. Let me come on. You can come. You wait. I'm not the one that's yelling. Dude. Just move back. No. Okay, so then give me the code. You're the one who's demanding. No, I'm demanding this election. You are saying that, and I'm trying to get the code on him when it's. I'm gonna put the code on. Then put the code on. Let him walk over and like he's doing right. Thank you very much. Thank you. I love you.
Mr. Peters, what was this argument over?
I bought a new coat for Henry, and she was insisting that I put the coat on him or that he wear the coat out of the house, and is saying, give me the coat, give me the effing coat, because she wanted to put the coat on him instead of having me put the coat on him.
And where was Henry at this time?
She was holding him.
Okay. Is
Your
that,
Honor, I would just object based on any, there's been a lot of questions about where was Henry? Where was Henry? This is, again, goes to this posturing for divorce. He did not file on behalf of the minor child. This goes specifically to his fear for his personal safety, Your Honor. This is all being tossed in solely for the divorce posturing that we were concerned about.
So keep it with what his fear for his safety.
sure, Judge. Okay, what resulted between you and Miss Peters? Was there a physical altercation during this exchange?
I object, Your Honor. He's already testified to the fact that he was, quote, slapped across the face.
Okay. I'll move on, Judge. Did you report that that altercation to anyone?
Yes.
And who did you report it to?
I eventually filed I filed a police report with the Johns Creek Police Department. I initially tried to file it in Roswell, which is the address of the townhouse.
Okay. Did anything come after the police report? Did anything occur?
Not as I'm aware.
Okay. Let me see. Your Honor, permission to share my screen.
Sure.
Mr. Peters, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And what is it?
This is an incident report from the Johns Creek Police Department.
Okay. And has it been changed or altered in any substantial way?
No.
Your Honor, this time we would tender plaintiff's exhibit 11 into evidence.
Any objection?
I believe I need Ms. Willis to scroll to the actual narrative.
Sure.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, it's admitted.
Okay, Mr. Peters, is this the report, the narrative that you gave to the officer?
It's it's not as fulsome as what I gave to the officer, but it's, I suppose, a summary of it.
Sure. And so you felt in fear enough that you felt the need to file a police report?
I did, yes.
Mr. Peters, are you afraid of Miss Peters being able to follow you?
Yes.
Do you feel as if you're being harassed by her placing these devices surreptitiously in and on your belongings?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, one further question. Mr. Peters, have you been able to see Henry over the past month and a half?
I would object to the relevance of that question, Your Honor.
Willis?
Judge, I can move on.
Sustain, go ahead.
I was just trying to give the court some context as to what the parties have been doing since the last, our last hearing at the TPO, our last TPO.
Hopefully they
hearing.
haven't been having contact unless it's something about the child.
No, Judge, they have not.
They haven't, okay.
Okay, nothing further. Well, I'm sorry, actually, Mr. Peters, are you asking that this court extend the ex parte TPO for 12 months?
Yes.
Are you asking that Ms. Peters be ordered to stop surveilling you?
Yes.
Are you asking for the provisions that are in the temporary order in the divorce to stay in place until the temporary hearing?
Yes.
So you're not asking this court to make any adjustments to parenting time in this hearing?
No.
All right, nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Alexander?
Your Honor, before I begin my cross, I'm going to renew my motion to dismiss based on Mr. Peters' testimony on his direct. Your Honor, he testified that with 3 of his air tags, they were found and then he placed them into his glove box to then determine, I guess, by process of elimination, if they belong to respondents. So he knowingly removed them and then placed them into his glove box. So first of all, once that happened, Your Honor, it specifically states that someone has to be placed under surveillance without the consent of the other person, Your Honor. Certainly, once he took them out himself and then decided to put them inside his glove box, he was that at that point, it was occurring with consent. And Your Honor heard it, that he immediately found the one that was in the car seat as soon as he went in to adjust it himself. Further, Your Honor, to the extent that, again, the predicate acts that are in the petition must cause the fear. We have 3 incidents of an air tag that caused him so little fear that he decided to keep them on him for a period of time in order such that he could determine if they belonged to Ms. McCowan Peters. Certainly, Your Honor, his testimony there has shown that this cannot rise to the level of stalking pursuant to 16590A1.
Judge, if I may. Sure. Judge, he testified that he wrapped them in tinfoil after he found them so that they could not track him anymore. By Mr. Alexander's own admission, there was a period of time prior to his discovery that he was being surveilled without his consent. Because he later gave consent or he had knowledge of the tracking devices does not alleviate the fact that at one point he was being tracked and surveilled unknowingly and without his consent.
Certainly, Your Honor, has to do with his fear. It has to place him in fear for his safety. He actually testified that he put them in his glove box so he could see if they appeared or disappear on his iPhone application when he came around Ms. McCowan Peters. He did not immediately place them in tinfoil so that he could continue to see if they would show up on the iPhone application. Thus, Your Honor, there is nothing here. And again, he has specifically pled that he has every reason to believe that similar events may occur in the future. These acts serve no legitimate purpose, happen at places other than ours residence, which we know is not the case, Your Honor, for the 2 cameras, happened at places other than ours residence in common areas were without petitioner's consent, which is not the case when he immediately finds one and places it in his glove box, and placed petitioner in reasonable fear for his own safety and his immediate family, that these air tags placed him in fear for his own safety. The actions themselves pursuant to the case law, and I believe that was cited during the motion to dismiss, the acts themselves.
I mean, and, you know, Mr. Alexander, so I've heard 17,000 of these, and I always like tell people I'm a little bit smarter than I sound. People may know that I'm not, I don't know, but you know, stalking. Sometimes stalking places. If somebody had an air tag on my car, I'd help them first of all. Second of all, that does put people in fear of their safety. Like, why are you stalking me? What's going on? I mean, you know, we never know. So that could actually make him. But I need a few more questions to figure it out, some details. I'll be glad to ask Mr. Peters, or you can, because I'm still not clear on just like a couple.
I'm happy for Your Honor to ask questions, and then I'll, to the extent there are not points hit, I'll ensure they are.
Okay, Mr. Peters. So you found the 3 different air tags. I understand the one you said you used for ferreting out who placed it there. How long before you put the air tag in the car, the diaper bag, and when did you put the oil around them? Guess what I'm saying. And it was at different times. Like Well, when I found him on the diaper bag, I immediately did. So that's what I'm trying to get. When did you?
Sure. So the first one, the one that was in the child seat, I didn't discover that one for several days, right? It was in the car seat. Henry wasn't in the car. So I was just driving around with it for several days. And once I discovered it, I put it in foil. I think a day, maybe a day later. I had to actually investigate how do you disable an AirTag.
So
Right?
you left it tracking for a day so that you could ferret out who would place it there, or how long did you, once you found it, how many days went past before you put the aluminum foil on?
I think it took me a day to identify that putting aluminum foil on it was the way to turn off the tracking. So it was probably a day.
Okay, so you found it, one day passed, then you put the foil
I think that's right. Yes.
on. Okay, what about the diaper bag? What about the other two?
The second and third ones, as soon as I identified them, within however long it takes to get to aluminum foil, I got to. I think the second one, I think I bought some aluminum foil, and so it would have been within 30 minutes or something like that. And the third one, as soon as I identified it, it was in aluminum foil within like a couple minutes.
Okay, so the first one, when you found it, it was a day between your investigating and Googling.
The first one I saw, Your Honor, to be honest, the first one, I didn't actually know what an AirTag, like I knew what an AirTag was, but I had never actually seen one and held one in real life. And so I knew that it was something that was not supposed to be there, but it wasn't like I was like, oh, this is an AirTag and I am being tracked and this is what all this means.
So you took that day to figure out what it is, how to stop it from working, and who it may be linked to.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So with that, what is it that makes you fearful that those AirTags that she was following you or tracking you, to wherever you went? What placed you in fear of that?
Well, just her aggression around me, and the things that we've talked about today, or that I've been talking about and being asked questions about, that she's tracking where I'm going, and presumably why. You heard her say on one of the on one of the recordings, that she's gonna call all the people I know and tell them what a dirtbag and deadbeat and so forth. So those kinds of things, but also just in general, that it means that she could find me at any time, whether I'm sleeping or whatever, and that I'm just vulnerable all the time.
Okay, she tracks you, she finds you. Then what?
Well, I mean, it has been typical recently for her to spring into or come into a room where I'm asleep or where I'm sleeping, relaxing, doing what, and just immediately launch into the cursing, the profanity, all of the aggressions that we've been talking about, all of the examples that have come up. So that follows from following me around. The time with my son, the ability to snatch him out of my arms because she knows exactly where he is. Those are violent things. And and they come by virtue of having proximity to me. And that proximity is driven by her tracking me and knowing my precise location.
Okay, Mr. Alexander, you have questions for him?
I certainly do, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
First, you just testified that she said on that recording that she threatened to call people and call you a dirtbag. Is that right?
I think I said change dirtbag to deadbeat or what, but yeah, you heard the recording.
Okay, I'm asking you what you just testified to. Okay, you are afraid that those calls are somehow going to physically harm you?
It would depend on who she would call and for what purposes. I mean,
So are you afraid she would call a hitman and tell
well,
you you're a dirtbag?
For instance, I would be afraid, that December 24th incident, one of the things that she did, if the recording had continued to play, I was just there to pick up my son, but she called her brothers who were like hiding off in a back room to come up to intimidate me. Those guys are all, and I'm a reasonably big guy. Those guys are bigger than me. They're taller than me. They both have criminal records. These are scary guys to be confronted with her in a small confined space. So again, like the question of who she would call depends on the context of.
So I want to be clear.
So absolutely.
Not scary enough though for you to put that incident in your petition though. Is that correct?
Well,
did you put that incident in your petition?
What I can say about the petition
is that correct? Did you put that incident in your petition? Yes.
My answer,
no, Mr. Peters.
But that's not a yes or no question.
Yes, it is.
If you look at
Your Honor, would you please direct him to answer the question?
You have to answer yes, no, then you can give an explanation.
It is scary enough to be put in the petition.
Did you put that allegation in the petition, Mr. Peters?
I didn't write that petition. Look at the penmanship. I gave all of these facts to Miss Willis, and she wrote the petition. So that's why I'm saying it's not a yes or no. But absolutely, this is.
Did you review this prior to it being?
I did. Yes.
Did you review it prior to signing your verification in there?
And I agree with everything in it.
Hold on, y'all don't talk over each other because if y'all do that.
My apologies, Your Honor.
And the punishment.
It's late. It's late in the day. Yeah.
And the punishment, whoever keeps doing that spends one day with Miss Lee doing takedown with people talking over one another. That's the
my
punishment.
apologies.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Alex.
I appreciate that, and I apologize. Obviously, this is an extremely serious thing that I can't get a direct answer on, Your Honor.
So go ahead and ask your question.
Well, I'm not sure I ended up hearing the answer after he gave his excuse as to why it wasn't in there. Why wasn't it in there then, Mr. Peters? Why did you feel that your wife allegedly slapping you across the face was not appropriate to include in a family violence petition?
Well, I think you've I reject the premise of the question. The answer is I went to.
I'm sorry, I'm asking the questions, okay? Why did you feel that it was appropriate to leave out an actual allegation of assault, which you went to the police department to claim in a family violence petition? Why did you feel you should leave that out?
I knew that I needed relief, but I didn't know the specifics of there are multiple kinds of petitions that you could file, and I didn't know the various legal. And so I relied upon my counsel to take all of the facts that I'd given and all of the things that had happened and put in a petition that was consistent with how this fairly stylized process works. And so I didn't elect to leave. There were many more facts that could or maybe should have gone in there. I didn't elect to leave any of them out.
Did your counsel sign this? Did your counsel sign this petition, Mr. Peters?
I signed it.
Okay. So all of these other incidents where you claim that there was, well, let's see exactly what it was, more than verbal violence, none of those allegations were important enough for you to include in your petition for temporary protective order pursuant to the Family Violence Act.
I've never read the Family Violence Act, so I don't know what the Family Violence Act requires, demands, or expects.
So, Mr. Peters, you assumed that an air tag was more appropriate for a petition under the Family Violence Act than family violence?
That is not what I assumed. What I assumed is that if I gave the various facts to my counsel, that my counsel would craft a petition consistent with the act, which of course, as I just mentioned, I had never actually read. I had a belief that what was happening to me was violence, that it was wrong, and that I needed it to stop in order to feel safe. But I didn't actually know the particulars of the Family Violence Act as applied through court cases and regulation.
So you signed this document, you claim to have not read the statute, yet you state in your petition that tracks the statute almost verbatim, petitioner has every reason to believe that similar events may occur in the future. These acts serve no legitimate purposes, happen at places other than respondents' residence in common areas, were without petitioner's consent, and place petitioner in reasonable fear for his own safety and his immediate family. You included that language in your petition. Isn't that right?
I don't have the petition in front of me, but I'll take your word that you're reading it. But the reality is I believe all of those things are accurate.
Okay, so just again, to be clear, there is not one single allegation in your petition of actual violence. Isn't that right?
I don't know that that's what you said. I don't know that that's true.
You need to read your petition, Mr. Peters. You need me to put it up here so you can reread it?
I don't, but I do know that what is actual violence is subject to different definitions in different places, and the things that we're talking about today seem like actual violence to me. Those things to me very much seem like actual violence.
Mr.
Now,
Peters,
you were the
Mr. Peters, you have to answer questions that he asks.
Okay.
That your attorney can ask follow-up questions, so you have to answer his question.
So, Mr. Peters, you're not aware in filing your petition for family violence that in fact, violence is quite literally defined under the statute 1931 of what constitutes family violence.
I've never read the statute.
Okay. So you testified that one of the recordings that we heard was, quote, that's a typical conversation with Candace where she curses at you, right?
It happens frequently.
Happens frequently. Throughout the marriage?
It has happened over the course of our marriage a number of times, yes.
Okay. Yet now, all of a sudden, even though it's a typical conversation with your wife, now they place you in fear for your safety?
These incidents now are different than they were prior to Henry because, as you heard me say on that recording, I can't just leave and walk out because to do so would be me abandoning my son.
I'm sorry, I'm asking about a fear for your...
Yeah, so let me respond to you then. I've always been afraid. I've always been afraid and in fear when these things happened, but previously I could simply flee or avoid. Now to do so means that I can't spend time with my son. She was doing this while holding Henry. That's why the presence of Henry is very relevant to what's going on. And so what you hear me say on that recording is, I'm just here to get my son and leave.
All right, so then by implication then, Mr. Peters, every time this happened in the past, you fled?
A number of times it happened in the past, I fled, yes.
Okay. How long ago, and I want to hear the specific facts regarding each and every time you fled from Miss McCowan Peters in fear for your safety.
Your Honor, objection. That is a broad question, and my client cannot be put on the stand and on the spot to recall each and every time over the course of a 6-year marriage and the specific details of how he walked away from an argument.
Your Honor, he is claiming that he is in fear for his safety based on these, quote, typical conversations and how they are different now. And he just said a couple times he fled in the past. I didn't ask him to recall each and every incident where a curse word was used.
So the times the couple times you fled in the past, you can focus on those two. What happened while you fled?
What happened and why did I flee? The what happened, Judge, briefly is exampled by what you just heard. Her closing the distance. Sorry.
December of 2019, we got in a fight, she slapped me. I left. I mean, that's kind of what I'm wanting to hear. That's what Mr. Alexander is asking, is not like same stuff. So something specific, but there was an incident and you left.
Sure. Earlier today, I testified on, as to the August 31st incident, and that would be an example wherein she was holding Henry. She cursed me out. I walked out the front door and left for several hours, and then came back when I thought, she was asleep. In December, there was another incident wherein, again, I don't have the specific dates in front of me, but there was another instant in which she confronted me in that room downstairs. I was lying on the couch, sort of had a book on my chest, and she directed a bunch of profanity at me, and also directed a bunch at my mom, who was not there. She was in a different state at the time. And I left and spent the night in a hotel.
And she threatened you when she was spouting profanity about you and your mom? She threatened you with physical harm?
Yes.
She did. I want to hear, what was the specific threat of physical harm that occurred?
Sure. It was blocking my exit to the door, telling me that I couldn't go past, closing the distance in that small room, shaking her finger and then her balled up fist in my face while cursing at me. That was the threat of violence, that in that instant, with somebody coming toward me, not allowing me and telling me they're not allowing me to leave, seemed like, again, I haven't read the statute, but it seemed like a threat of violence.
Right. But again, so not enough of a threat to put in your petition, correct?
Yeah, I go back to what I answered earlier. I've given these details and to counsel, and counsel who presumably has read the act, determined what went in the petition. I read it for the veracity of what was in it. But to your point, Mr. Alexander, I'll just be like, I read it to see, is this what's been represented here? Is it accurate? Not is it like aren't there things that should have been in that weren't included? That's not how I read it.
Okay. You testified that it took about, when the judge was asking you questions, that after you found the AirTag, it was only about 1 day that between the time you put the AirTag in your glove box and you wrapped it in aluminum foil. You remember that testimony?
Yes.
You remember your earlier testimony where you claimed that it took several occasions where the commonalities, I believe that was the exact word you used, the commonalities showed you that when you came in the proximity of Miss McCowan Peters, you could determine the AirTag belonged to her. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
And is it your testimony right now that only took 1 day for you to drive closer to Miss McCowan Peters, away from Miss McCowan Peters, closer to away for you to determine that it belonged to Miss McCowan Peters?
Yeah, it took, as I recall, somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes, because the proximity that I'm talking about is Bluetooth type proximity. And so it can be done if somebody's if she's sitting on the couch, it can be done in the course of, a couple minutes.
All right, then you were scared after November 18th when you found that, right, Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't call the police, did you?
I did not.
Okay. You didn't file for a protective order at that time, did you?
I did not.
You filed for divorce at that time?
No.
Did you flee the residence at that time?
Yeah.
You did. On November 18th, 2022, you fled as a result of finding that AirTag. Please tell me where you fled, and are you staying there right now?
Well, what I mean by that is I went to Florida in the days after that, carrying with me, a bunch of personal effects from the house to stay in a place down there to figure out what to do.
How many days following November 18th?
I'd have to look at my calendar. I don't remember, but it was shortly thereafter.
So 24 hours?
I'd have to look at my calendar. I could tell you if I looked at my calendar, but I don't specifically remember. But it was shortly thereafter.
So you're in fear for your safety, but where did you stay that night?
I stayed in the townhouse.
With Miss McCowan Peters, correct?
Well, but also importantly, I stayed there. Yes,
Miss
you are
McCowan
correct.
Peters. Yes,
You're
thank
correct.
you.
I stayed there with her, but importantly, I stayed there with my son Henry. I stayed there with my son Henry because it's my job, even when something scares me, to put up with that and to go through it in order to be a good father to him. And so there are many times that I did things that were scary for me. You heard them on the 24th because I did them for the benefit of my son.
Well, you stated earlier, and I don't believe I ever got an answer to this, that before Henry was born, there were occasions in which you fled as a result of Miss McCowan Peters cursing. I don't believe I ever got an answer at 18 months ago, 18 months and prior, the occasions on which you fled because you were in fear for your safety as a result of her cursing at you.
Yeah, there were those incidents. I thought I went through a couple of them with Judge
I'm talking
Manning.
about before Henry was born.
Yes.
What happened?
This is the first time I can remember it. It was in the first year that Candace and I were married. And I had been exposed to this kind of, this violence from her previously. And we were heading into our apartment and she cursed me out in the elevator up to the 10th floor and in the hallway. And rather than going into the apartment, because I knew the direction it was going to go once we were in a small space, I went to the airport, got on a flight, and went to Florida.
Okay. And that's because you feared she was going to physically assault you in the apartment.
I was fearful of what would happen I was fearful of what she would do once we were behind those doors. Yes.
Okay. Any other incidents? You alluded to a couple, I believe. So that was one, first year of the marriage. Anything else?
Well, I also, I think, mentioned when I went to a hotel, you're saying before 18 months ago. And
correct, because your testimony, if I'm correct, tell me if I'm correct, is that you don't flee now because you can't because of your son, right?
That's not true. Actually, I described for you several instances, and to Judge Manning, several instances in which I had fled, including when I went to a hotel where Henry was there. However, the threshold for fleeing, I would say, is a lot higher. The incidents are much more violent because even in instances, you're asking why I didn't leave or call the police or go or like immediately on the 18th. And the reality is, yeah, I went to Florida a couple days later, but I was trying to, in the interim, spend time with my son, to bond with him and to teach him how to become an adult. Whereas prior to Henry, I probably would have gotten in my car or gone to the airport and left immediately. Henry has changed that dynamic because I simply now have to put up with things that scare me. I have to put up with being around Candace when it scares me. If putting up with that is required of me in order to be a good father.
But you just testified that there are times when Henry's there and you leave. So tell me the difference then about times that scare you so much that no matter that Henry's there, I'm out of there, as opposed to the incident.
Yeah, the difference is a matter of degree. That she's being so violent, so profane, that even my presence there is right. Is in and of its.
Mr. Pierce, can you tell me what your definition of the word violence is?
Well, look, I'm not sure I have one. I mean, this professor at Stanford just wrote a whole book on the title of which is violence. It came out like 22
I'm
or
not asking
21.
what his definition of violence
Yeah,
is.
but what he's
Mr.
saying is
Peters.
like the violence is like it's a hard thing to
Well,
define. And
Mr.
I
Peters,
think it's
you
when
just
somebody's, I think when
Hold on.
somebody's threatening you and when
I'm
they're
gonna
being,
unleash, hey. I'm gonna
yeah, when they're
Hey,
making you,
Mr. Peters.
oh, I'm sorry,
That's
Your
all,
Honor.
you definitely. I'm going to unleash Miss Lee on you. It's gonna be worse than having to work with her side by
I'm
side.
sorry.
So he's not talking in general to define it. What's violence to you may not be violence to me. So what is violence to you? What do you consider violence that's making you fearful? I think, am I right, Mr. Alexander?
That's correct, Your Honor. Thank you.
Great, Your Honor, it's this. It's the cursing, the closing of space, the doing this. I think you guys can see how I'm jabbing. If that's your eyeball, it's the slapping across the face. It's the hitting of that finger in your left eye. It's the balling up and somebody shaking their fist in there. And then it's, by the way, it's grabbing the relatives and having them close in to back the play when you're, in your own space, in your own house. Those things are what I mean by violence.
So the act of discovering the AirTag did not put you in fear, did it, Mr. Peters?
It did.
It did. It did at that moment in time. Was Miss Peters around you?
Well, can I clarify my last statement?
Was Miss Peters around you?
Yeah, I need to clarify my last like the act.
I believe your counsel can do so on redirect, Mr. Peters.
Okay. So, sure, when I discovered that it was an AirTag and that it was used for tracking objects, but now was tracking me, and that it was linked to Candace, that immediately put me in fear. Discovering a piece of equipment that I didn't, when I first saw the AirTag, I didn't know what it was. So it was only after I figured out what it was and what it was being used for, it was at that moment instantly that I was in fear. That's what I mean by, can I clarify? But yeah, initially I just discovered a lump.
Yeah, so I appreciate you clarifying that. So your specific fear then, and I want to be clear about this, was that Miss Peters was going to show up and wag her finger in your face?
I think I talked about her doing much more than that.
And
I never used the word wag.
I believe you just said, you even gave us a very nice example of it, pointing at the camera, balling up a fist, closing space, and cursing at you. That was what
you said, slapping me across the face, and that very same finger that she was jabbing in my face. I think I also mentioned
Mr.
that
Peters.
it went into my eye.
Mr. Peters, you have awakened.
Mr. Peters, I can't do it anymore. He's telling me, Judge. He just won't finish their question, and it's just killing me.
I'm sorry.
Okay, now she has never turned on her mic and said something. Mr. Peters, this is how it, look, most lawyers are married to other lawyers, and trust me, even then when we argue, we tend to say, okay, sometimes we don't, but you've got to let him finish asking the question. If you don't understand it, ask him to rephrase the question. But the first word out of your mouth needs to be yes or no, and you can offer an explanation.
Understood, Judge. Thank you. And I'm trying. I'm sorry.
I apologize. Miss Lee, is there any way that you could potentially read back what portion of my last question you got? Because I'm not sure I recall exactly what it was.
No, sir. Sorry. No, sir. No, sir. Sorry. You're just going to have to wing it on your own.
Understood. Thank you, Madam Court Reporter. Mr. Peters, I believe what I was talking about was your fear of what would occur if Miss McCowan Peters showed up to your location. And your prior testimony was that she was being violent and that she would ball her fist, shake her finger in your face, and close the distance. Is that what you are telling this court you are afraid of?
In part. But I've also discussed in this testimony her slapping me on the face. And remember when I talked about her putting the finger, like that very finger going into my eye as a result. So it's not just you on, in that room you're in and me here, and she's pointing at me and shaking her fist. It's the closing the space that actually then becomes physical contact. Those are the things that I'm afraid of.
That actually becomes physical contact. So you told us about the slap that you went to the police about, right? Right? You went to the police on December 25th as a result of an incident on December 24th, where you claim she physically slapped you. Is that right?
Well, except for the day I went to them on the 24th for the first time, and then on the 25th, yes.
Okay, and you are claiming there are other incidents in which she closes the gap with you and then actually strikes you?
Yes.
Okay, and there's not a single one of those incidents pled in your petition for temporary protective order?
Judge, I need to object to this line of questioning. On direct examination, there was an objection by Mr. Alexander that he should not be permitted to testify as to all of the previous acts because he did not include them in the petition. Now he is cross-examining him on things that he was not permitted to testify about on direct.
And unfortunately for me, my objection was overruled at the time. And he was allowed.
If he opens the door to a different event, he opens the door to a different event. I know no one else wants to stay here. This is 5:15.
Well, Your Honor, I will take this opportunity then to ask the court how much time we had, because obviously Ms.
So,
McKenna.
here's the thing is, you remember earlier I said I had a special, maybe I went, I had a special set trial on Monday. The lawyers have emailed and said they just got an eval from a psychiatrist, a parental evaluation eval. So we're not gonna go forward. I'm gonna have them on at 9:30 on Monday to kind of pre-trial the issues. Do y'all want to come on at Monday?
Right, so it's not necessarily a continuance, it's a continuation of the hearing already.
Right. And I won't have anything, because I especially said it for that trial. So there'll be nothing else except that, well, it'll be at 10 o'clock, I have to hear my ex parte. But so that day, however long it will be for
Certainly, Your Honor, I'm not sure what my client's availability is, that morning. I can certainly make myself available that morning. I don't believe I have a legal conflict, Your Honor.
Ms. McCallum Peters. So they're gonna be here at 9:30. I'm assuming. So, maybe 10:30. I don't know.
My client did just put a chat to me that she is available.
Oh, okay. And you too, Mr. Peters? Mr. Peters?
I'm sorry. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Willis?
Judge, I'll be available.
Okay, Ms. White?
Unfortunately, I have a final hearing, Judge, that's specially set before Judge K at 9:30.
You know how long it's gonna go?
It probably will go.
I know him, he gets grumpy. He'll cut everybody.
He gets
out.
grumpy.
He's worse than me. He gets angry.
He's fastidious, Judge.
That's a great word. There you go.
I don't imagine it being an all-day hearing, Your Honor, because there's much to do about nothing in that case. But don't say I said that. But
so I have the 14th because that day was set aside all day. So Ms. White, I'm assuming you would want to be here to hear whatever, and you may have a couple of questions.
Judge, I have the 14th is my birthday, and I have a leave of absence, but I would be more than happy to appear if the court is inclined to hear it on the 14th. If everyone will be sweet with each other and kind.
Well, I hate this is your birthday.
We will be sweet and kind with you, Ms. White. I promise that.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander.
Ms. White can put Ms. Free, you did not need to be here. But she can send you guys a new Zoom link so we can do it Tuesday. But Ms. White, you may want to put your office address so that Ms. Willis and Mr. Alexander can send you Valentine's Day chocolate. Wow.
Absolutely.
Valentine's Day / birthday.
Absolutely, Judge. Expected.
And maybe Miss Lee too. Miss Lee's going to be here. Miss Lee, are you available to finish this on?
Judge, I was available the 13th, but not the 14th. So Do you want the attorneys to be responsible for contacting the firm and getting another reporter?
Yeah, you guys can
We can
contact.
certainly take care of that. Certainly, Your
He's
Honor.
not available. So any exhibits, please email them with Ms. Lee, and she'll email you guys the invoice, and then we'll do it on the 14th. But we will, since it is Miss White's birthday, she's a love child for sure. So we'll be quickly and not take up her entire birthday. So
Certainly.
on Tuesday, we can 9:30. Because I don't have the one special set. I can do it at 9:30. Is that good?
Certainly, Your Honor. We'll be available then.
Same here, Your Honor.
Your client's fine, Mr. Alexander?
Thumbs up. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So Ms. Free, do you want me to just have them use this same Zoom link? That'd be easier.
If we can use the one that's already set for the 14th, and I'll just send it to everyone.
Use that. Yeah, we'll send you that link I was going to use. So
it will have a different case number on it, you all, but it'll be.
No problem. We'll make sure to click it, the link.
So we'll send you guys those. I think, Ms. Free, you have everybody's email?
I do.
Okay. And what we'll do is, Ms. Free, don't leave, because I'm gonna come down and walk you out. It's starting to get dark outside. Don't leave.
You know, I got it.
I know you do. But
He's got a new baby to protect.
I know, right? I gotta protect her. I go crazy with that. All right, so guys, y'all have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Tuesday at 9:30.
Thank you, Judge.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Good to see you.